Chapter 759, West Hill, the majestic main hall of the Divine Palace. A teleportation portal stood in the middle of the hall. At this moment, intense spatial fluctuations spread out, and the teleportation portal suddenly opened. Ji Xiangtian walked out with a gloomy expression. His eyes were gloomy and his thoughts were spinning at an alarming speed. Du Ma considered himself to be cautious, but he didn't know that his actions over the years had already been noticed. The reason why he tolerated it was that he hadn't done anything out of line, so there was no reason for him to make a move. Secondly, the great divine seat is also waiting for an opportunity to use Duo Irma to take another step forward. Finally, this time, Duo Irma could not help but make a move using the matter of the Yellow Springs Mystery Realm. Things went very smoothly. Aside from the fact that he could actually control God's descent and other forbidden divine techniques, everything else was under his control. But His Excellency Great Divine Priest had never thought that a little bug, who had never been considered in his plan, would suddenly emerge and take away the power that should have belonged to him. Was this a warning from the Tao Lord? Thinking of this, Ji Xiangtian's expression became increasingly ugly. If the Tao monarch hadn't died, it would have been easy for him to take away the Western Tomb's authority. He was a great god with an extremely venerated status, but in the end, he was just a spokesperson for the Lord of Tao in the world. He had to find out the identity of this newly appointed Holy Son as soon as possible. Perhaps it could help him understand the situation at hand. At this moment, the divine seat's expression changed. The portal in the hall suddenly condensed again. It was larger and more exquisite, and its surface was covered in fine patterns that interweaved with each other, emitting a noble and dignified aura. The black-robed figure walked out from within. "It's you," Ji Xiangtian bellowed. He glared at Su Mo, exuding an oppressive aura. Qin Yu never thought that the ancient would transmit him to the Western Tomb. His thoughts stirred. He said, "Esteemed divine seat, there seems to be some misunderstanding between us." Ji Xiangtian was expressionless. A person of unknown origin suddenly became the divine sect's holy son. "What do you think I should do?" Qin Yu lightly said, "Your Excellency divine seat, the Tao monarch's will does not need to be explained to anyone. I hope that you can remember it." Ji Xiangtian said slowly, "Holy Son is right. I will naturally obey the Tao Lord's will. However, I really want to know your true identity. How could a mere hidden fog sect have such a character? There must be a secret hidden under the black robe. Since the great god had become the divine sect's saint's son, he naturally had the qualifications to ask this question." Qin Yu shook his head. "My identity involves the arrangements of the transcendent Tao monarch. I cannot tell you right now." After a slight pause, he continued, "Great divine seat, there is no need to worry. Although I have become the Holy Son, I will not stay in the Western Tomb, nor will I try to seize your authority. The divine throne is the Tao monarch's spokesperson in the world, and I'm just carrying out the Tao monarch's will to complete a certain task he gave me. Once the task is completed, I'll leave." Qin Yu had no interest in controlling the Western Tomb Divine Church. In fact, he even instinctively didn't want to have too many connections with the Western Tomb. So although his tone was calm, one could clearly feel his sincerity. Ji Xiangtian had a deep look in his eyes. "Should I trust the saint?" Qin Yu said, "Time will prove everything." Ji Xiangtian nodded. "Good. Then I will stay here and congratulate the saint's son in completing the Tao monarch's mission as soon as possible. If there is anything that the Western Tomb needs help with during this time, the saint's son can speak freely. However, your identity as the Holy Son is a secret. How can the cultivators of the God sect identify you?" Qin Yu was startled. Could it be that the Western Tomb divine seat couldn't sense the holy light in his body? He carefully swept through his body. The fused power of holy light was wrapped up in his blood energy, like calm water beneath a layer of ice. His thoughts stirred. Qin Yu lifted a hand and grasped the air. A mass of holy light immediately appeared. "If necessary, I will reveal my identity. Moreover, I ask that great divine seat keep my current identity a secret. Perhaps I should temporarily hide the fact that I have become the new saint's son." Ji Xiangtian smiled. All right. Du Irma had died, and the holy light had fused into the body of strange cultivator, but it hadn't chosen him. He hoped that no one would ever know of this matter. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. Great divine seat, please help me open a portal to Dragon City. I haven't grasped this ability yet. Ji Xiangtian nodded. Sure. He flicked his sleeves, and space fluctuated as a gate appeared. Saint San, please. Qin Yu turned and stepped in. He wasn't worried that Ji Xiangtian would attack him. At the very least, he wouldn't dare to before he figured out his background. The reason was simple. He was the new saint's son chosen by the Tao monarch. As Qin Yu stepped in, the transmission array trembled and vanished from sight. The calm western tomb, divine seat's complexion, suddenly paled. The holy light aura that Qin Yu released just now was in no way inferior to his own. In the strict hierarchy of the divine religion, this was a mistake that could not be allowed to exist. Or, to put it more bluntly, Qin Yu already had the qualifications to replace him as the new divine seat, who, after a long time, the divine seat let out a long breath. Just as Qin Yu thought, he didn't dare to do anything now. He would wait and see. If this new saint's son really was like he said and only existed to complete the Tao monarch's mission, then the Western Tomb would do its best to help him achieve his goal as soon as possible. Otherwise, the Ji family that had ruled the divine religion for hundreds of thousands of years still had the ability to resist. In the past, they had betrayed their master and sent him into the abyss of eternal damnation. So, why couldn't they do the same thing again? A faint light flashed in Ji Xiangtian's eyes. Of course, this was only a last resort. He hoped that things wouldn't reach this step. Dragon City, hidden fog sect station. Hufu had already returned with news that something had happened to Qin Yu. Although he didn't explicitly state that Qin Yu had died, the meaning behind his words was clear. The hidden fog sect had originally held on to hope and were filled with anticipation. But after a brief moment of shock, they all fell into panic. Mr. had died, and there was no hope of saving the Dark Star Eye Serpent. Although the arena finals hadn't begun, the Hidden Fog sect had already been defeated. They were doomed to lose the championship, and once they were defeated, the Hidden Fog sect would inevitably pay for their previous glory. Everyone was filled with bitterness. Hufu issued a series of orders. The messengers hurried back to the Hidden Fog sect and made a series of arrangements. In the eyes of the elders, the sect master's response was a bit too intense, as if he were resisting a great life or death calamity. But at this time, no one tried to stop him. After all, it was always better to make some more preparations. As for Yundai, with Mister's death, the halo of light that surrounded his beautiful disciple also faded away. In the chaos, no one had spared thoughts to care about her. She walked out a hall and looked up at the blue skies and white clouds. Although the sky was bright and clear, it was dark in Yundai's eyes. To her, the entire world had lost all color. Her teacher had died. He had died. Although he didn't dare to believe it, Sect Master Hufu wouldn't joke about this matter. You were so powerful, how could you die? Yundai was silent for a long time. Then, she revealed a firm expression. Teacher, this disciple will not let you be alone. On the road to the Yellow Springs, I will accompany you. Yundai turned and walked back to her room. Her face was pale and sad, but as she took a step forward, she gradually calmed down. Her teacher had died, and the Hidden Fog sect was doomed to fail. They had lost the bet with the hidden influences, but she would never allow the chaotic sky mirror that was stained with the blood of the Ying family to fall into the hands of others. Shua, a shadow flew out from a corner and blocked in front of Yundai. This was an extremely ordinary-looking man, one that would be impossible to find in a crowd. He looked to be around 30 years old and had an expressionless expression on his face. His eyes were indifferent. Yundai's heart skipped a beat. She suppressed her panic and said, "Draw back. I want some peace and quiet." The average-looking middle-aged man shook his head. "Miss Yundai, your teacher has died. The bet is over." Yundai's pupils shrank. If this person dared to directly state his identity, then he clearly had absolute confidence he could capture her. Without any hesitation, she opened her mouth to call for help. The middle-aged man lifted a hand and pointed out. The invisible air in space was instantly sucked out. His faint voice sounded in her ears. According to the bet, Miss Dai will leave with me. I ask that you do not try to resist, otherwise I can only apologize. After all the air was sucked out, her entire body seemed to freeze. A powerful suppressive strength made it, so that Dai couldn't move at all. Despair flashed in her eyes. So she couldn't even commit suicide? Suddenly, ripples appeared in the deathly still space. A portal appeared, and Yu stepped out. The first thing he saw was Dai. Then he felt a formidable suppressive strength in the air. He immediately frowned. He lifted a hand and punched out. Bang! The imprisoned space instantly shattered. The complexion of the average-looking middle-aged man changed. He clearly recognized Yu. Damn it, was this a trick? But those people from the Hidden Fog sect looked as if they had lost their parents. He didn't have time to think about what was happening. He took a deep breath and lifted his hands. A rich black light erupted from his palms. In the next moment, with a dull thumping sound, the man's eyes widened. The bones in his palms and arms emitted crackling sounds as he was sent flying away. "Teacher!" Dai cried out, tears flowing down her cheeks. Yu nodded. "I'll send him away first." The middle-aged man tumbled into the ground, creating a long trench in the ground. His face was deathly pale, and he cursed the people from the parliament who had gathered information. "Fuck your strength. You said you were ordinary, but you nearly hammered me to death with a single punch. This is absolutely a great Dao realm master." No, he had to hurry and run, otherwise he would be screwed. With a tumble, the middle-aged man diverted the strength that crashed into his body. Then, he faded away like a shadow, about to vanish from sight. Humph! The cold snort was like a clap of thunder. Blood spurted out of the middle-aged man's 7 orifices. He felt as if a mountain had smashed into his head. Aside from a buzzing sound, he could not think at all. In the next moment, he felt his neck tighten and he was caught in someone's hand. Those 5 iron-like fingers left the middle-aged man in no doubt that as long as he used a bit of strength, he would be crushed to death. "My lord, please forgive me. I only mistakenly thought that you had died, so I acted according to the bet. I had no intention of offending you." As expected, it was someone from the Dark Parliament. Beneath the black robes, Yu glanced to the side. He could already sense a large number of auras rushing over. The people from the Hidden Fog sect were about to arrive. Strength flashed in his palm. The middle-aged man spat out several mouthfuls of blood and was sent flying away. "Out of my way!" The middle-aged man tumbled to the ground, turning into a shadow and vanishing from sight. In the next moment, Hu Fu and the others from the Hidden Fog sect arrived. As they saw the black-robed figure in the messy courtyard, their eyes widened. "Mister!" Yu turned around, his eyes indifferent. "I only came back a moment late. Is this how you all take care of my disciple?" If he had been a step slower, Dai would have been taken away. The consequences could be imagined. Like a cold wind blowing past, everyone who was swept by Yu's gaze stiffened. Before the joy in the hearts of the Hidden Fog sect people could spread, it turned into unease. Everyone panicked. Hu Fu took a deep breath. He cupped his hands together and said, "Mister, before this we thought that you had neglected Miss Dai. It was our mistake. Fortunately, Mister returned in time, and Miss Dai wasn't harmed. The Hidden Fog sect is willing to offer a generous gift to express our apologies. I ask that Mister forgive us." After he finished speaking, he had a pleading look on his face. "Miss Dai, this was all our mistake. I ask that you be magnanimous and put in a few good words for my sect." With his status as a sect master, his attitude was extremely low. It was clear that Mister had returned from the dead, and the Hidden Fog sect had hope once more. He wouldn't allow any accidents to occur. Dai wiped away her tears. "Teacher, don't blame sect master Hu Fu and the others. I ran out on my own." Yu was silent for several breaths of time. He coldly said, "This gift must satisfy Dai." Hu Fu was overjoyed. "Yes, yes." He bowed gratefully towards Dai. Then, Hu Fu hesitated. Although Mister had returned, he didn't know whether or not he had obtained the resurrection lily. This concerned the fate of the hidden fog sect. Qin lightly said, I haven't obtained the resurrection lily. Shua, Hufu's face instantly drained of blood. Qin glanced at him and coldly coughed. Immediately prepare the other materials. I will begin the treatment in 2 hours. It was like he had risen from the abyss into heaven. Hufu was stunned. His face flushed red, and it was only then that he discovered that his robes were soaked with sweat. He certainly didn't dare to complain that Qin Yu was deliberately scaring him. Hufu repeatedly nodded and led the overjoyed hidden fog sect disciples away. Without outsiders, Yindai couldn't hold back any longer. She threw herself into Qin Yu's arms and hugged him tightly as she cried. Teacher was still alive. He was alive and well. Tears soon soaked his black robes. Qin Yu revealed an embarrassed expression. Not only was Yindai beautiful, but her figure was also domineering. At this time, she was so excited that she lost all scruples. When she hugged him, she used a lot of strength. Cough, cough. All right, teacher is fine. I don't have much time left. I need to obtain the resurrection lily as soon as possible. As expected, this topic shifted Yindai's attention. She looked up with tears streaming down her face. Teacher, you really didn't obtain the resurrection lily, Qin Yu nodded. It's true, but I have my own methods. Stand up first. Yindai was stimulated by this news and sobered up. She looked at her black robes that were soaked in tears and drew back several steps. Teacher, do you have any methods? Qin Yu thought for a moment and said, It should be useful. You stay here and don't let anyone disturb you. Watching him enter the room, Yindai's tears stopped. What did teacher mean by this? What did he mean by should be useful? Teacher, if you can't obtain the resurrection lily, then your beautiful, flower-like female disciple will be taken away by others. Chapter 760. The Dark Parliament's middle-aged man fled in distress. When he was far away from the hidden fog sect station and determined that Qin Yu wasn't chasing after him, he finally relaxed. But his years of training had taught him to be cautious, so he didn't dare to be careless. He circled around in circles and used every method at his disposal to confirm that he wasn't being followed before arriving at the contact point. This was an ordinary courtyard. A young couple lived here. The middle-aged man had arrived at a bad time. The two were in bed, making the next generation. However, both sides only paused for a moment. Then, the two faced each other on the bed and stood up, not caring at all that their bodies were exposed. They rolled up their bedding and revealed a pitch-black entrance. The middle-aged man jumped in. The young couple made the bed and then hugged each other again. Fiery breaths filled the air. From start to finish, only several breaths of time had passed. It was as if nothing had happened at all. Pa! With a light sound, the illumination array formation in the darkness lit up. Bright light sprinkled into every corner, illuminating this simple chamber. On a black square table, there was a single-line communication array formation. As the middle-aged man poured magic power into it, the runes of the array formation lit up one after another. Soon, a projection appeared in midair. The middle-aged man knelt down on one knee and respectfully said, Subordinate greets protector. What is it? Ning Qin has returned. Just as subordinate was about to capture Yindai, he stopped me. Moreover, regarding this person's cultivation, the information that the Dark Parliament gathered was wrong. Ning Qin is at least a great Dao realm master, and his soul force is even more astonishing. He thought back to the cold snort that interrupted him when he turned into a shadow to escape. It was like a sudden clap of thunder that shook his mind. The projection was silent for several breaths of time. How did you escape? The middle-aged man honestly said, I didn't escape. It was Ning Qin who let me return on his own initiative. It seems he has some self-awareness. The projection paused and continued to say, You know the rules. Soon, someone will come to hand things over with you. Leave Dragon City. The middle-aged man respectfully nodded. Pa! The projection shattered and dissipated. Looking at the contact point he had used for decades, the middle-aged man revealed a complex expression, as well as a bit of relief. He turned and walked towards the transmission array in the corner. The array formation activated and the person vanished from sight. The illumination array formation dimmed, and the underground contact point returned to darkness. Without accident, it wouldn't be used again for at least 100 years. Hidden fog sex station. In the room, Yu suddenly frowned. Before this, he had done something to the middle-aged man's body. This was a small skill he had grasped after his soul made a breakthrough. He could lock onto a person's position. If he could find a location of the Dark Parliament in Dragon City, he would have more room to maneuver when dealing with them. But now, the middle-aged man's aura was rapidly disappearing into the distance. Clearly, he had already left Dragon City. There was indeed a reason why the Covenant of Darkness could hide from the world for so many years. They were sufficiently cautious. Shaking his head, Zhang Xian suppressed his thoughts. It was just a casual arrangement. Success was to be congratulated, but failure was nothing. Now it was time to get down to business. Yu closed his eyes and sank his mind into his body, activating the holy light that had been concealed by his blood vitality. His entire body began to emit light, and every pore on his body emitted strands of light. Holy and majestic. He calmed down all his thoughts and bowed. My lord, there is a matter that I need your help with. There was silence and no change at all. Yu's expression was calm as he maintained his bowing posture. Without a sound, space collapsed inward and a crack appeared. The ancient's calm voice echoed out, "What is it?" As he thought, after fusing with the Tao monarch strength, he could communicate with this person. Yu's expression didn't change. He continued to say, "My lord, the reason this junior entered the mystic realm was to obtain the resurrection lily. This is extremely important to me, and, if possible, I hope that my lord can bestow the resurrection lily to me." His injuries had already healed, and his cultivation had risen by a great deal. But he still had a bet with the Dark Parliament. Since it concerned Yundai's life and death, Yu certainly wouldn't ignore it. The ancient said, "Of course." Several breaths of time later, a figure stepped out from the spatial crack, a blue flower petal in his hand. A flower petal is enough for your needs. The ancient attendant will remain by your side for the time being. She has recovered a portion of her strength and can ensure your safety. Yu cupped his hands together. "Thank you, my lord." The spatial crack vanished. Yu looked up at the ancient attendant in front of him. She was nearly as tall as Yu, and her entire body was bathed in darkness. One could faintly make out her proud and domineering figure. "Greetings, master." The ancient attendant knelt to her knees. Her voice was slightly hoarse, as if it were made of metal. It was cold and indifferent. But now that such a beautiful woman was respectfully kneeling in front of him, it gave one a great psychological satisfaction. Yu nodded. "Rise." He didn't speak further on this matter. He couldn't refuse the arrangements of the ancient. "Give me the resurrection lily petal." "Yes." The ancient attendant offered it with both hands. Yu took it and directly asked, "You want to stay by my side?" The ancient attendant nodded. "This is the old master's order." Yu had no expression. "But right now, I am your master." The ancient attendant was silent for a moment. "I will follow master's orders." Yu said, "Very good. You can stay here. When I need you, I will naturally call for you." He turned and left. After leaving the ancient attendant's gaze, Yu's face darkened. It seemed that some of his thoughts could be sensed by the ancient. For instance, he needed the resurrection lily to treat the dark star ice serpent. In Yu's eyes, this certainly wasn't good news. Leaving the ancient attendant behind was Yu's counterattack and probe. He wanted to let the ancient know that he wasn't a chess piece in his hands. Of course, this was also a normal cultivator's response in the current situation. It wasn't too excessive. For the time being, Yu didn't want to create a rift between him and the ancient. Perhaps the ancient really was wholeheartedly helping him. After all, Yu was the only ancient left in this world. But even so, Yu still wasn't sure. He had always been confident in his own intuition. Shaking his head, Yu suppressed these thoughts. He stood up and walked outside. Thinking too much was useless. He would take things one step at a time. Right now, saving the Dark Star Ice Serpent was the most important matter. Yundai's heart was in a mess. She had been standing guard outside the door the entire time. As she saw Qin push open the door, she welcomed him. Teacher, she looked him up and down. Qin reached out a hand, revealing a petal between his fingers. I've got it. Yundai bit her lips. Teacher, it's just a petal. It's enough. With the ancient's vision, if he said it was enough, there definitely wouldn't be any problems. Qin stepped forwards. Let's go. Yundai hurriedly followed behind. A moment later, all the materials needed to save the Dark Star Ice Serpent had been gathered together. Qin gestured with his hand. Yundai stepped forwards and carefully inspected them. She turned and nodded. Teacher, there's no problem. Hufu let out a long breath. He bowed. I'll have to trouble Mr. Qin nodded and left. Yundai put away the materials and followed. Seeing the master and disciple leave, Hufu sighed inwardly. The hidden fog sex relationship with Mr. Ning Qin had eased up a bit, but after Yundai was almost captured, it was clear that their points had been deducted. If only they could obtain Mr. Ning Qin's approval. Even if they failed in the end, the hidden fog sect would still be sheltered. Hufu secretly decided that the compensation he prepared for Yundai would be 30% more generous. He had to let her feel the hidden fog sect's sincerity. Currying favor with Yundai could be considered a roundabout way to save the country. He would do that. Laboratory. All of the array formations were activated, and there were layers upon layers of hidden fog sect masters standing guard outside to ensure that not even a fly could fly in. The success or failure of this trip to Dragon City would depend on whether or not the Dark Star Ice Serpent could be saved. Teacher, I'm ready. Yundai took a deep breath and stood in front of the experimental table. Qin nodded. Begin. Yundai was incomparably nervous and also excited. She never thought that she would have the chance to participate in such a high-level treatment. Besides the resurrection lily, the other materials that the hidden fog sect had prepared were also incomparably precious. Each one could be called priceless. I can do it. I can do it. Yundai took a deep breath. She activated the chaotic sky chronicle and began to mix medicines according to the directions it gave her. Reincarnation fruit, cloudstripe wood, deep sea spirit extract, spiritual materials were placed into the mixing vessels. They began to react with each other. Bubbles tumbled within the crystal tubes, and their colors constantly changed. Qin paid attention to Yundai's expression. After the initial panic, she became increasingly calm as the mixing process continued. Her movements were smooth like flowing water. The rigorous process of mixing medicines left one feeling pleasing to the eye. He relaxed a little. It seemed that there wouldn't be any problems with this step. Qin revealed a look of appreciation. This fake grandmaster, eldest disciple, seemed to have an outstanding talent as a beast trainer. The final material was the resurrection lily. One needed to draw support from its extreme power to instantly absorb and gather all of the medicinal efficacy so that the medicine would take shape. Qin had a dignified expression. He could feel Yundai's caution. This step was the most critical one. If she made a mistake, then she would lose everything. 2 white fingers picked up the resurrection lily. Then she let go and it fell. In an instant, the petals melted. It was like a giant, transparent net had appeared, instantly covering all of the medicinal liquid. Then it constantly contracted. Contracted. Qin rubbed his temples. Is it over? Yundai let out a long breath. It's over. The most difficult and crucial step he had imagined was unexpectedly easy. However, the speed at which the medicinal liquid contracted was a bit too slow. Thus, Qin asked a critical question. Yundai, how long will it take to complete this medicinal liquid? Yundai let out a breath of relief. Just as she was feeling excited, she carefully thought about it. Then, she closed her eyes and sensed for a long time. Her face paled. Qin immediately had a foreboding premonition. And in the next moment, he heard Yundai cry out. 1 month. Qin face stiffened. He couldn't catch his breath and his field of vision darkened. Chapter 761. Teacher, what do we do? Yundai's hands and feet were icy cold. Qin took a deep breath. You leave first. I will give a try. Yin Dai's eyes brightened. She thought back to the 400s of mature shadow trees. Her teacher could do what others couldn't to begin with. Yes. She bowed and drew back. Qin Yu stood in front of the medicine container, his eyes gloomy. With a loud shout, all of the blood vitality in his body erupted. The holy light that fused into his body allowed him to form a connection with the ancient's consciousness. Qin Yu wasn't sure if he could completely block it out, but in the current situation, he could only give it a try. Yin Dai was no longer a stranger to him. Qin Yu couldn't watch her fall into a hopeless situation without doing anything. He closed his eyes and sent out a summons to the distance. In the current situation, only the little blue lamp strength could change everything. But he didn't know whether or not it would help. The little blue lamp's principle had always been to hide itself above all else. Perhaps Qin Yu might have it take the risk to help, but Yin Dai wasn't on that list. If the little blue lamp felt threatened, it wouldn't send its strength down. Time slowly passed. Qin Yu's complexion gradually darkened. He opened his fingers, but no blue light appeared. Was it really impossible? Qin Yu didn't have full confidence he could convince the little blue lamp. But if he gave up like this, Yin Dai would be beyond redemption. His thoughts raced. Just as Qin Yu decided to give it a try, faint traces of blue light flowed out from his palm. Far away, a small world floated in the endless nothingness. After rapidly growing, it gradually stabilized. The great sun hung high in the highest heavens. Mountains and rivers covered the land, and the air was filled with rich spiritual strength. The aura of life began to appear. For instance, fish in the rivers, beasts in the mountains, and birds in the skies. However, their sizes were 10 times or even 100 times larger than ordinary fish or birds. In a rapidly flowing river, a goldfish suddenly leapt up. Its scales reflected the dazzling sunlight, and its massive body cast a massive shadow. Then, it fell into the river, stirring up tumbling waves. Suddenly, the cry of an eagle resounded in the skies. Its wings were thousands of feet wide, and its eyes were cold, and its aura powerful. But there was actually a blade of grass on its head, its thin leaves swaying in the wind. The great eagle rapidly descended, its wings folding together as it landed in the majestic palace. The great hall beneath its feet emitted a brilliant light. From afar, it looked like the projection of the great sun in the skies. The majestic and untamed giant eagle that looked down on all living things on the ground was standing in the main hall with extreme respect. It gathered all of its feathers and lowered its head submissively. That stalk of grass suddenly jumped up like a small opened umbrella. It slowly flew down and landed in the main hall. "Sir, I don't quite understand." A green light surged on the grass as it spoke. A figure sat on the main seat of the palace. His entire body was covered in light, and only a blurry figure could be seen. When he heard this, he opened his eyes, and there seemed to be a billion bolts of lightning flashing in the hall. Xiao Qiao shrank back a little. Although it had seen him many times before, the adult's aura still made it feel incomparable awe. But thinking about it, with the Lord's noble status, who in this world can compare to him? That was a true existence that soared above the 9 heavens. "Did you feel it?" A light voice sounded out. The grass felt warmth in her heart, but as it fell into the ears of the great eagle, it was like a million peals of thunder. Its body fiercely trembled, and it hurriedly grasped onto the ground to avoid the tragic fate of falling down. "That's right. I don't think that my lord should descend your strength at this time to help Master Qin Yu." The green grass paused. "No, I was wrong. Master Qin, you must be helped, but there is no need for that woman." "Ha ha, this matter isn't as simple as you think it is. I didn't plan on helping at the beginning, but at that moment, I suddenly had a feeling. Don't worry, Qin, you won't suffer a loss. I have my own reasons, but I can't tell you right now." The green grass tapped its tender leaves. "Then I can rest assured. You cannot be discovered right now. Otherwise, there will be great trouble." The small roots slapped the ground, and the grass flew up. "Well, I won't disturb my lord's cultivation any longer. I'll leave now." "Hold on." The figure in the light, lightly, said, "How has your control been recently?" Good, good, it's all good. I'll finish soon. The grass dryly laughed and flew even faster. She flashed out of the hall. But at this time, the clear skies above her head suddenly darkened. In the next moment, a bolt of black thunder came crashing down without warning. The grass wailed, "My lord, why did you use this move again?" Hum! The cry of a sword reverberated through the highest heavens. The dark skies were cut apart by a sharp blade, and light sprinkled down, illuminating the blades of grass that blocked out the skies. It came from the highest heavens. Its blades of grass could cut apart the heavens and split the earth, shattering stars. Bang! The black thunder was split apart. The grass cried out miserably as it fell onto the great eagle's head. It immediately flapped its wings and soared into the skies, flying far away in the blink of an eye. Within the hall, the figure in the light smiled helplessly, but his eyes revealed a satisfied look. In the rumors, there was a star cutting grass that existed in the world, and its blades could shatter stars. But what he wanted wasn't just this. To participate in the breeding process of a world, to even fuse with the world, to have its roots planted deep within the source of the world. How could this star cutting grass be ordinary? It was destined to shake the world. The doors to the laboratory opened. Chinyu walked out with a dark expression, his eyebrows tightly furrowed together. Yindai paled. Not even her teacher could do this. As she thought, she couldn't escape her tragic fate in the end. Squeezing out a smile, Yindai said, "Teacher, there is no need to trouble yourself for this disciple. I am already satisfied that I was able to live to this day." Chinyu waved his hand. "There is still time. You don't need to despair." But as for what to do, he had no clue. The little blue lamp had indeed taken action and sped up the fusion speed of the medicines. But beneath the deep blue light, the quality of the fusing medicines also rose. And this sort of increase also slowed down the speed of the fusion. In the end, it would still take a month for the fusing medicines to complete. Yindai nodded yes. There was the sound of footsteps. Hu Fu and the other hidden fog-set cultivators had obtained the news, and they hurried over to the laboratory. "Mister, what is the matter?" Chinyu coldly said. "There isn't enough time to fuse the medicines." Then what do we do? Could this be the will of the heavens? My hidden fog sect is destined to have no fate with the position of chief. The elders sighed in disappointment. Hu Fu suddenly asked, "How much time does Mr. need?" Chinyu glanced at him. 1 month. Hu Fu respectfully said, "Mister, there's a mystic land in Dragon City that only the 7 great sects and the Shadow Clan know of. That place is related to the secrets of time." Everyone's eyes brightened. "That's right, we actually forgot about that place. 1 month of time. As long as we bring out enough sacrifices, it isn't difficult to accomplish. The heavens always leave a path." Qin Yu's pupils shrank. "The power of time?" "That's right." Hu Fu said, "Dragon City is an extremely mysterious place, and there are many places that we have yet to explore. This mystic land is located in the center of an altar. After offering sacrifices, we can change the flow of time, speeding it up or slowing it down. In the historical records, 1 day in the outside world is equivalent to 37 days in the altar. As long as the medicines are brought into the altar, they can complete the fusion in a single day." Qin Yu said, "Hu Fu, immediately prepare the sacrifices and bring the medicines into the altar." The power of time? He never imagined that there would be such an astonishing place in Dragon City. And this strength was something that Qin Yu had once seen many years ago. The source of this strength was the little blue lamp. Chapter 762. The place where the power of time was hidden was a mystic realm in Dragon City. On the surface, it seemed that only the 7 great sects and the Shadow Clan knew of its existence. But because the 7 great sects hadn't managed to obtain the right to control Dragon City, this mystic realm was temporarily controlled by the Shadow Clan. Explaining so much wasn't nonsense, but to point out the reason why Qin Yu was bitterly smiling. Right now, he felt a headache coming on from this little girl, Zhou Li. By now, news of his safe return to Dragon City had already spread out. If Qin didn't go to the Shadow Clan station, then Jolie might vent her anger on the Hidden Fog sect and cause complications. And right now, what he lacked the most was time. Forget it. Qin sighed inwardly. He stood up and hurried towards the Shadow Clan station with Hu Fu and the others. Before this, there were already Hidden Fog sect elders who had set off to discuss using the Mystic Realm with the Shadow Clan. There was good news and bad news. The good news was that Jolie was in seclusion, so Qin wouldn't feel uncomfortable in front of her. The bad news was that the Mystic Realm that contained the power of time had been used by Radiant's Temple first, and it had been extended until the start of the finals. Those women, they're doing this on purpose. A Hidden Fog sect elder clenched his teeth and roared. There was the sound of footsteps, and a gentle breeze carried a delicate fragrance. It was formed from the fragrances of over a dozen beauties, leaving one subconsciously intoxicated. Yo, how come I feel like someone is speaking ill of me? A soft and gentle voice carried with it a soft affection. With a deep roar, the Hidden Fog sect elder's body stiffened. Fine white frost rapidly appeared, covering his entire body. Hiss! His body shivered as if he had just walked out from a world of ice and snow. The cultivators of Radiant's Temple had arrived. They were all absolute beauties, each one swaying in the wind, their postures enchanting. Sect Master Hu Fu. Radiant's Temple Master nodded. It is not good to talk about others behind their backs. Hu Fu was expressionless. What did he care about talking about others? He wished he could directly attack and tear apart this old woman who was pretending to be young. He took a deep breath and squeezed out a smile. North Qiong Temple Master, my sect needs to borrow the Mystic Realm today. I didn't think that Radiant's Temple would reserve it in advance. I wonder if Temple Master could transfer the right to use it. I am willing to pay 3 times the price. Just how mysterious was the power of time? Opening it once consumed a tremendous amount of energy. Temple Master Jade Light's eyes flashed. Oh, I wonder what Sect Master Hu Fu is talking about. I can't believe you're willing to invest so much. Hu Fu said, my sect's Dark Star Ice serpents suffered some injuries, but they have mostly healed. They just need some time to sleep so that they can restore their strength before the finals. He coughed. In the finals, although the Hidden Fog sect and Radiant's Temple are opponents, Temple Master is well aware of just how strong the Dark Star Ice serpent is. If you're willing to make things convenient for us today, my sect will surely repay you. For instance, in the finals, the Dark Star Ice serpent had shown mercy. There was a mixture of truth and falsehood in his words. For someone at the level of the Radiant's Temple Master, it was impossible to just run one's mouth. Bei Qiong cursed inwardly. If she didn't have other channels, then she might have been deceived. Did you really think that your dying Dark Star Ice serpent would dare to take it out to discuss conditions? She faintly smiled and said in a soft voice, I'm really sorry. Our Radiant's Temple's Phoenix Luan has suddenly grasped a turning point in her advancement. She needs some time to complete her breakthrough. So, we cannot give up the time, Mystic Realm. Sect Master Hu Fu, please think of another way. In addition, although the Time Mystic Realm is isolated from the outside world and won't be affected, I still hope that everyone from the Hidden Fog sect can leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, if there is a problem with the Phoenix Luan's advancement, I fear it will be difficult to explain. This was a direct refusal, leaving no room for negotiation. Hu Fu's complexion paled. Fuck off. Think of another way. In the entire world, there was only one known place that contained the power of time. Even if there was another place, where would they go in 2 short days? These women really were doing this on purpose. How hateful. Not having enough time to concoct the potions was an unexpected situation. It was impossible for them to know ahead of time. Was it really fate that the Hidden Fog sect couldn't escape their predetermined fate, no matter how much they struggled? The Hidden Fog sect master felt his heart turn cold. Aha, both of you are masters of one of the 7 great sects and have a deep relationship. If there are any problems, just explain yourselves. There must be no conflict. The Shadow Clan's one-eyed elder laughed, but he was actually roaring in his heart. Bastard, why did they have to play a standoff in their Shadow Clan's territory? If this were outside, I wouldn't care if they fought each other. Even if my head was bleeding, I wouldn't even frown. No one responded. The atmosphere was awkward. The Hidden Fog sect had nowhere to retreat to. The Time Mystic Realm was their last chance. If they missed it, there was no hope for the Dark Star Ice Serpent. They would suffer a crushing defeat. Radiance Temple knew the inside story. Although they weren't too clear on what was going on, they knew that the Time Mystic Realm was the last chance for a group of salted fish to make a comeback. They certainly wouldn't back down. It was impossible for them to sacrifice themselves to help others. The Shadow Clan's one-eyed elder. Blue veins popped up on his forehead, and his smile twisted. These two groups of men and women were absolutely shameless. They were definitely trying to make him lose face in front of everyone. Endure it. I have to endure it. The reason that the Shadow Clan was able to peacefully survive for so many years despite being surrounded by the 7 great sects was not just because of their own strength, but also because of their outstanding ninjutsu. The one-eyed elder had a fiery temper to begin with. But since he was able to become an influential figure in the Shadow Clan, he naturally had his own unique ninjutsu cultivation. He reached out a hand and pinched his thigh. Then he forcefully twisted it. A sharp pain struck his heart, and he sucked in a breath of cold air. He immediately felt himself break free from his violent state. Cough, cough. In truth, fellow Taoists of the Hidden Fog sect, there's no need to be so angry. After all, there's a first-come, first-served basis for everything. Shwa, the Hidden Fog sect disciples glared at him. Humph, the beautiful women of Radiance Temple looked away. The one-eyed elder paused. Of course, as an elder of the Shadow Clan, I maintain an absolutely neutral stance. I will not be biased towards either side. They were all damned bastards. Damn bastards. According to our Shadow Clan's many years of research, it has been shown that the Time Mystic Realm's altar has a great selection of sacrifices. To put it simply, the altar has a simple screening spiritual sense. It can choose better items that it needs more. Hu Fu's eyes brightened. Elder One Eye, are you saying that our Hidden Fog sect can offer sacrifices now? If the quality of the sacrifice is high enough, then we can obtain the right to use the Time Mystic Realm? The Radiance Temple Master's eyes were like arrows. The group of beauties behind her all lost their smiles. Elder One, I pretended not to see anything. That might be the case, but the Shadow Clan has never tried it before. I cannot guarantee whether or not it will work. He had to resolve the current situation. He couldn't allow these two sides to fight in the Shadow Clan station. Now, he had a solution. If the Hidden Fog sect couldn't obtain the right to use the Time Mystic Realm, that was because they were too poor. On the other hand, if they succeeded, then it would be because Radiance Temple was useless. It would have nothing to do with the Shadow Clan. He had easily cleaned out the Shadow Clan. The surrounding Shadow Clan cultivators all praised Elder One Eye inwardly with worry. He was truly worthy of being an elder-level character. Not only was his cultivation formidable, but his wit was also admirable. Good, Hu Fu shouted out loud. We will immediately offer sacrifices. This time, even if they had to empty out the entire Hidden Fog sect and turn everyone into paupers, they still wouldn't hesitate. The Radiance Temple Master shouted out, "Stop!" Her eyes flashed with electricity, and her aura rose. My sect's spirit beast, Phoenix Lawn, is in the process of advancing. It absolutely cannot be disturbed. Anyone that dares to ruin this will be a mortal enemy of my Radiance Temple. The salted fish of the Hidden Fog sect could forget about rising again. Hu Fu stepped forwards, opposing her with equal harshness. Is that so? Then I would like to have a good taste of Radiance Temple's wondrous techniques. At this time, let alone a mere Radiance Temple, he wouldn't even hesitate to fall out with the Western Tomb Divine Church, the #1 divine church under the heavens. If a god blocked him, he would kill a god. If a Buddha blocked him, he would kill a Buddha. The Hidden Fog sect cultivators trembled. As they looked at their sect master's back, they felt as if they had finally seen his true appearance. So it turned out that the Lord Sect Master was such an overbearing and straightforward man. With just a single word of disagreement, he would start fighting. Elder One Eye's remaining, I was stunned silly. How come in the blink of an eye, The hidden fog sect and Radiance Temple had come to blows again. Moreover, this rhythm was far more terrifying than before. It was clear that a small spark could erupt into a heaven-shaking battle. Shwa, a beam of light howled forwards, dispersing to reveal the Shadow Clan Patriarch. His hands were held behind his back, and a boundless aura erupted from his body. His eyes were as cold as hell. Sect Master Hu Fu, North Jade Palace Master. The Shadow Clan regards you two as honored guests and has always treated you with the utmost respect. Is this how you two repay us? His voice became increasingly low and deep, rumbling through the world. If the Shadow Clan's patience and respect can only be treated with contempt and rudeness, then I ask you two to lead your sects and leave. Otherwise, you will be the enemies of the Shadow Clan. The Hidden Fog Sect and Radiance Temple cultivators both revealed awkward expressions. This scene caused the panicked Shadow Clan cultivators to let out a long sigh of relief. Then, they couldn't help but sigh inwardly. No wonder the Patriarch could become the Patriarch. Elder One Eye, who had played together with the Patriarch, was not only blind in one eye, but was also only an elder. This disparity was far too obvious. Hu Fu and North Jade Palace maintained their silence. At this critical juncture, they didn't want to become enemies with the Shadow Clan that controlled the mystic realm. The Shadow Clan Patriarch descended, and his aura slowly converged. The altar is right there. If you two wish to use it, you can rely on your own ability. The Shadow Clan will not interfere. The method just now was tossed out once more. The Shadow Clan didn't want to be drawn into this matter at all. Hu Fu cupped his hands together. What happened just now was indeed the Hidden Fog Sect's rudeness. I asked the Patriarch to forgive us if we offended you. He looked at North Jade Palace. Everything will be as the Patriarch says. Radiance Temple Master clenched her teeth. Good, she sneered inwardly. In terms of wealth, their Radiance Temple didn't fear anyone. As for today's losses, as long as they could take the position of chief, what did it matter? They could naturally make up for it. Humph humph. Hidden Fog Sect, this time it was you who sought death. I will remember today's debts and slowly settle them in the future. Chapter 763. After passing through the spatial gate, they entered a gray space. All that entered their eyes was a deathly silence without the least bit of life. An altar stood alone in the center of this space. It wasn't too large and was only 100 meters high. Like this space, it was also dark gray. No, it was more accurate to say that it was even darker. It was like this altar was the source of the entire space being dyed gray. Beneath the black robes, Chinyu frowned. In his eyes, the altar was right in front of him, but in his heart, he felt as if it were far away, as if no matter how hard he tried, he would never be able to reach the altar. This sort of feeling was strange and wonderful. Chinyu hesitated for a moment and then stepped forwards. Although his steps didn't seem fast, they were actually faster than thunder. After a dozen steps, Chinyu stopped. As he thought, the distance between him and the altar hadn't decreased at all. The Shadow Clan Patriarch lightly said, "Fellow Taoist, the time altar contains an unknown strength. Although it exists here, no one can approach it." Chinyu was silent for a moment. He said, "Patriarch, may I ask if you know the origin of this altar?" The Shadow Clan Patriarch shook his head. "It already existed here before my clan entered Dragon City. So, my Shadow Clan has no comment on this question." He turned around. "That's enough. My clan is only the guardian of the altar. Now that we have opened the entrance for Hidden Fog and Radiance Jade, our mission can be considered accomplished. What happens next will depend on your own methods." Hu Fu took a deep breath and bowed. "I, Hidden Fog Sect's Hu Fu, am willing to offer a sacrifice in exchange for opening the gate of time and borrowing the power of time." He waved his hand and a great expanse of light appeared. Countless spirit stones, materials, and treasures gushed out like a broken dam. In that instant, the light of treasures soared into the heavens. "Sect Master!" Behind him, several Hidden Fog Sect elders widened their eyes, astonishment and shock on their faces. Although everyone knew that curing the dark star-eye serpent was the most important task at hand, they still found it hard to accept paying such a great price. Hufu didn't turn his head. He said in a low voice, "If the hidden fog sect can obtain the position of chief, any price is worth it. I will bear all the consequences of this matter. There is no need to speak further." There were some matters that couldn't be made public yet, but this was the final chance. He wouldn't miss it. Above the dark gray altar, light condensed into a tray. This tray swallowed all of the treasures offered, like a bottomless abyss that could never be filled. Far away, in the boundless void world, in the main hall, the figure shrouded in light suddenly opened his eyes. Power of time. There was a hint of seriousness in his voice. The reason he had helped Chinyu before was because he had faintly felt a special aura. Although he couldn't clearly see what this aura represented, he could faintly feel that it represented some kind of beneficial factor. However, he didn't expect to make such a shocking discovery so quickly. The power of time was a top-notch power in the myriad heavens and 10,000 worlds. Only true, peerless experts could control it. The power of time actually existed in this world. Was it really just a coincidence, or did it have some other origin? After remaining silent for a long time, the figure in the light raised his hand and pointed at the void. A spatial passageway opened up, and the palm-sized Xiao Chao screamed as she flew out. "My lord, your methods are too violent. My waist was almost torn apart. I don't have time to bicker with you now. There's something I need you to do." The figure under the light said calmly. Xiao Cao's tone changed. "I will listen to the Lord's orders. I will take a blade of grass from you and give it to Chinyu. If you feel anything wrong, immediately sever the connection with your body." Star cutting grass. A single leaf could shatter a star. Not only did it rely on one's own strength, but it also had the blessing of the heavens and earth. By relying on this blessing, it could easily sever one's own aura and blind the primal chaos of yin and yang, allowing one to jump out of the 3 realms and 5 elements. Xiao Chao grimaced in pain. It took a long time to grow a single blade of grass. But since the Lord had spoken, there had to be a reason. Xiao Chao nodded, but her tone became pitiful. "Don't worry, I won't let you suffer a loss. If there are any harvests this time, I will give you some good fortune." This was the power of time. If he could absorb it, he would be able to restore a great deal of his strength. He wouldn't need to be as careful as he was now. Time alters space. As a massive amount of top-grade grass fell onto a tray, a transparent scale phantom appeared and began to tilt. Hufu's spirits rose. When the scales completely tilted, the hidden fog sect would be able to replace him and obtain the qualifications to borrow the power of space and time. Not too far away, the Radiance Temple Master coldly snorted, her face icy cold. Although both sides hadn't attacked yet, they had already torn apart all pretense of civility. There was no need for her to keep up a facade. "You want to obtain the right to use it? Keep on dreaming." The Radiance Temple Master stepped forwards and bowed. "Radiance Temple is willing to continue offering sacrifices. I humbly request that you leave the right to use the altar to us." She lifted a hand and pulled in front of her. Space split open and countless treasures surged out. In terms of wealth, even Sky Declaring Pavilion, which was said to have business connections throughout the world, might not be able to compare with them. Who told their ancestors to be so lucky? They had dug up the largest spirit vein that had ever been discovered in the world. Moreover, it was controlled by Radiance Temple alone. It could be said that spirit stones were rolling in like a tsunami, inexhaustible. The beautiful Radiance Temple elders all revealed looks of disdain. They had never been afraid of comparing wealth. This was truly worthy of being the wealthy Radiance Temple. The Shadow Clan cultivators sighed with emotion. Looking at the current situation, the Hidden Fog sect had no chance at all. Hufu had a calm expression. He had already expected this, but since he dared to make a move, he naturally had a backup plan. And this backup plan was himself. He was a person that was about to die. If he could contribute to the sect, he was willing to bear anything. I, Hufu, am willing to sacrifice my lifespan in exchange for the right to use the power of time. Above the altar, the floating scale phantom paused. In the next moment, a thought fluctuation sounded out in everyone's hearts. Are you serious? Hufu bowed. I am willing. I will not go back on my word. Sect Master, please wait. You cannot be impulsive. I ask Sect Master to take back your promise. You cannot sacrifice your lifespan. The hidden fog sect elders were all shocked. Hufu didn't take back his words. I have already made up my mind. There is no need for you to speak any further. His expression was calm, and his eyes were as firm as iron. In the end, he hadn't been able to achieve the best result. After today, he would inevitably be discovered. There wasn't much time left, but Hufu didn't regret it. If he could die for his greatest wish in life, to save the hidden fog sect, he would be willing to die even if his bones were torn to pieces. Permitted. An invisible strength spread out from the altar, covering Hufu. He stuffily coughed, and his complexion paled. His entire body began to rapidly age at a speed visible to the naked eye. His hair withered like weeds, and wrinkles covered his face. His straight back became stooped, and he emitted a lethargic aura, as if he were on the verge of death. The entire audience fell deathly silent. No one expected that in order to obtain the right to use the power of time, Hufu would do this. Even Yu couldn't help but reveal a look of admiration as he looked at Hufu's back. He had once withstood the pain of having his lifespan sucked out. But what Hufu experienced now was 10 times, 100 times more terrifying than what he experienced in the past. But Hufu didn't make a single sound. Even if his body trembled in pain and dark red blood flowed out from his head, he wouldn't be able to resist. The scales rapidly tilted. Life was meaning. Once one died, everything became nothing. Chapter 764. The Radiance Temple Master sat in a daze. Her face was icy cold as she gnashed her teeth. As the hidden fog sect master, Hufu was her best comparison. In order to use the power of time, he had even sacrificed his lifespan. What would she do? Sacrifice her lifespan as well? The key point was that Bei Qiong felt that she was in the prime of her youth and that her life was beautiful and colorful. She hadn't found a man she liked to dual cultivate with yet, she was unwilling to die like this. Everyone's eyes gathered on her, waiting for the Radiance Temple Master's next response. There were several gazes that came from behind her, filled with anticipation. You bunch of sluts, you want this old woman to sacrifice her lifespan and let you take advantage of me? Dream on. Taking a deep breath, the Radiance Temple Master slapped her forehead. A rainbow-colored light gushed out, and a dazzling seed flew out. Myriad enlightenment fruit. The Shadow Clan Patriarch shouted out loud, his expression shaking. Behind him, Elder One Eye's complexion changed. What? This is the Myriad enlightenment fruit? In the legends, it isn't. The Shadow Clan Patriarch interrupted him. He looked deeply at the Radiance Temple Master. Radiance Temple's methods are truly good. I admire you. Everyone in the world had been mercilessly played with. Myriad enlightenment fruit. A voice suddenly sounded out in Yu's mind. An invisible strength spread out, instantly covering his entire body and shielding his several independent consciousnesses, as well as isolating him from the outside world. The little blue lamp. It had already been a long time since it had taken the initiative to contact Yu. As his cultivation rose, it became even more cautious. At this moment, as Yu heard its voice, even though there was a connection between them, he still felt a bit of joy at reuniting with it. However, Yu didn't waste any time. He directly asked, "Is this Myriad enlightenment fruit useful to you?" If the little blue lamp was directly communicating with him, it was inevitably taking a great risk. "This fruit is useless to me, but it is a treasure for you. The reason I sent my consciousness here is for this altar." The closer he got, the clearer he could feel the mature power of time lingering around the altar. Of course, if he considered it from another perspective, it might also contain greater dangers. After all, someone that could control the power of time to such a degree was absolutely an incomparably formidable character. And most importantly, The little blue lamp didn't feel the aura of death from this altar. In other words, the master that refined this altar was still alive. Is it bait? In the distant world, the figure bathed in light spoke softly. There was some hesitation in his eyes. The risk was higher than he thought, but it would be too much of a pity to give up like this. Moreover, according to the wisp of aura he sensed, this wave might be slightly risky, but it shouldn't be too big of a problem. Let's do it. Chinyu, I have brought something. Take it and offer it. As the fluctuation of his consciousness fell, a part of Chinyu's soul space quietly collapsed and a green blade of grass flew out. It was only 3 or 4 fingers long, and there was a watery sheen around it. It was clear that it had just been cut off. Whoosh! The grass and leaves flew out of their own accord, circling around Chinyu's soul and dancing in the air, seeming particularly intimate. But at this time, Chinyu's entire body stiffened and his thoughts nearly froze. He could clearly feel the violent energy contained within the blade of grass. Even the tiniest bit of it was enough to tear his soul to pieces. As if discovering Chinyu's distress, the blade of grass stopped in front of him and did its best to restrain its aura. Who? Chinyu let out a long breath. He felt as if he had taken a trip to the gates of hell. As he looked at the somewhat aggrieved grass in front of him, his mind stirred. Star-cutting grass? The blade of grass forcefully nodded. It's me, Master Chinyu. You finally remembered me. Chinyu still remembered that many years ago when his consciousness had entered into the distant world, he had seen that weak little grass. But now, just a single leaf of it was powerful to such a degree. As he thought, the speed at which one's cultivation rose could only be described in relative terms. In these past years, he felt as if he was racing a car, while the other party was driving a rocket. After a moment of sadness, Chinyu immediately shook off this thought. You are the sacrifice. The little blue lamp lightly said, Don't worry, nothing will happen to it. Moreover, if you want to save this cultivator who is currently sacrificing his lifespan, you had best hurry up. He will soon die. Chinyu looked up. Indeed, Hufu was as thin as a stick, and his body was covered in death energy. His vitality was like a candle flame that could be extinguished at any moment. Sect Master, why are you doing this? Even if you can't seize the position of chief, we will still have a chance in the future. That damned Radiance Temple. They harmed our sect master to this extent. We must definitely take revenge for this enmity. The Hidden Fog sect elders were filled with despair. They never imagined that their sect master, who had always seemed weak and cowardly, would actually act so fiercely and fiercely. Teacher, Yindai revealed a look of unwillingness. She was a kind-hearted girl. Chinyu said, Don't worry, you won't die. He lifted a hand. Light flashed in his palm, and a blade of grass appeared. The moment the blade of grass appeared, Chinyu felt a gaze on him. It was like a pair of invisible eyes were staring at him. Thou, do you wish to offer a sacrifice? A thought fluctuation came from the altar. Chinyu nodded. I am willing to sacrifice this blade of grass to help the Hidden Fog sect obtain a chance to use the power of time. Of course, without needing the scales to weigh it, the thought directly agreed. In the next moment, a strength was drawn out and applied to the blade of grass. Chinyu's eyes flashed. His fingers suddenly grasped the blade of grass. Wait a moment. Thou wish to renege. Above the sacrificial altar, the projection of the gray scales released an extremely terrifying aura. Chinyu shook his head. I only have a few conditions. At this moment, everyone was shocked. This was the first time they had seen someone dare to bargain with the time altar. Didn't he fear death? This was a blade of grass that contained the power of time. One didn't need to be a genius to know that its origins were absolutely astonishing. Perhaps he could casually move his pinky finger and crush them into dregs. In this situation, he still dared to raise conditions. Everyone looked at Chinyu as if he were a madman. Did you think that just because you were holding something that the time altar was interested in, you could recklessly offend it? Dream on. You would definitely be screwed. Subconsciously, the Shadow Clan and Radiance Temple cultivators pulled away from Chinyu. The remaining hidden fog sect cultivators all had tangled expressions. They didn't know if they should stay or leave. Only Yundai looked at him, her eyes sparkling like little stars. He was truly worthy of being her teacher. Even facing the time altar that had its own consciousness, this legendary existence still dared to raise a request. She believed that her teacher could definitely do it. He definitely had confidence in himself. The time altar was quiet for a moment. The terrifying aura on the scales slowly converged. State your request. He succeeded? He actually succeeded. The people from Radiance Temple were stunned. They never thought this would happen. Time altar big boss, with your status and status, you actually compromised so casually? This didn't make any sense at all. You should have directly smacked this bastard into dregs with one slap. A foreboding feeling gushed out from their hearts. If the time altar was able to compromise, it was clear that this grass leaf was extraordinary. Could the dignified Radiance Temple be defeated by a grass leaf? No, absolutely not. Bei Qing grit her teeth. The speed at which treasures gushed out from the spatial crack suddenly accelerated. She had even offered up the myriad enlightenment fruit and paid such a heavy price. The hidden fog sect would never be able to rise again, never ever. As long as there were enough sacrifices, the time altar would definitely change its mind. Qin Yu glanced at the Radiance Temple Master, who had a fierce expression on her face. He shook his head at her struggle. Since the little blue lamp had taken action, how could it give you any room to resist? Even if you sacrificed yourself, you still wouldn't be able to redeem yourself. It was just that he didn't know what would have been done to this star-cutting grass leaf, that the time altar would be so interested in it. Gathering his thoughts, Qin Yu said, "First, undo the plundering of Hu Fu's lifespan." Yes, the swallowing strength emitted by the time altar vanished without a trace. Hu Fu's body softened, and he slumped to the ground. Although he had managed to keep his life, he was like a lamp that had run out of oil. Qin Yu lifted a finger. The second request is that Radiance Temple sacrificed a myriad enlightenment fruit just now. I am quite interested in it. The time altar, this seemed to be the first time that someone had dared to take something out of its stomach. After a moment of silence, thought fluctuations sounded out. All right. Hum. The scales rapidly trembled. After several breaths of time, a rainbow-colored light flew out from the abyss-like tray. Ha! Qin Yu grasped it. The Radiance Temple Master's face paled. Her eyes stared straight at Qin Yu. If looks could kill, Qin Yu would have already been riddled with holes. Her myriad enlightenment fruit, the myriad enlightenment fruit that she had nourished with her blood vitality for hundreds of years, the myriad enlightenment fruit that was about to mature and be used. Her heart ached. Her heart ached to the point of exploding. No, calm down. Don't feel this heartache for now. Right now, the most important matter wasn't this. Once the hidden fog sect obtained the qualifications to use the space-time mystic realm, they really might be able to reverse the situation and trample Radiance Temple beneath their feet once more. If so, then everything that Radiance Temple had sacrificed would become meaningless. They would have to face an extremely grim situation. How hateful. Just who was this black-robe man? For the space-time altar to value him so highly, the grass leaf in his hand was definitely a treasure. For the hidden fog sect, he was even willing to sacrifice such a treasure. Just what was he doing? Unfortunately, Qin Yu wouldn't explain this to the Radiance Temple Master. When he obtained the myriad enlightenment fruit, he let go and allowed the suction force to take away the star-cutting grass leaf. Shwa! It fell onto the scale tray. The side representing Radiance Temple was sent flying away. The space-time altar shook. Its surface opened, revealing an entrance. Bang! The Lawn Phoenix's giant figure was directly expelled out. Its body curled up, and fluctuations of strength constantly shook around it. It was in an extremely unstable state. This Radiance Temple Spirit Beast was actually in a state of ascension. The Radiance Temple Master was left dumbfounded. Who could tell her that the Phoenix Lawn had been perfectly fine? Why would it suddenly begin to advance? This was definitely a good thing, but the timing was too bad. During the process of ascension, It had been expelled from the time altar. The flow of time around it fluctuated, instantly causing it to lose control of its strength and fall into the abyss of failure. No! The Radiant's Temple Master screamed out loud. Her fingers danced in the air, forming a series of sealing law formulas to suppress the Phoenix Wand's rampaging strength. Chapter 765. Chenyu didn't care about Radiant's Temple Master's resentment. He didn't even glance at her. His eyes fell on the entrance to the time altar, and his thoughts raced. It was clear that the little blue lamp had designs on it. In this situation, staying as far away from it as possible was the best choice. That was it. Sect Master Hu Fu. This sort of dangerous matter was best left to the people of the Hidden Fog sect. But just as Chenyu opened his mouth, he was interrupted by the little blue lamp's thoughts. What happens next will require your cooperation, so you must personally enter. The white-haired Hu Fu gasped for breath. Mister, what orders do you have? Although he was about to die, he was actually overjoyed in his heart because the Hidden Fog sect had a chance to take a turn for the better. It was just that after today's events, they owed Mr. even more favors. But sometimes, owing favors was also a way to pull relationships closer. As long as Mr. didn't mind, he hoped that the Hidden Fog sect would owe him more favors. Chenyu was silent for a moment. It's fine. I will enter the time altar. You can all wait outside. Looking at the entrance to the mystic realm on the altar, he was filled with anxiety and helplessness. He felt as if it were a giant mouth waiting to devour him. Teacher, will you enter by yourself? How about this disciple accompany you? Yundai sincerely asked, a hint of anticipation in her voice. This was the legendary strength to change time. If she could personally experience it, that would be the best. As for dangers, if she followed a teacher's side, that didn't exist. After experiencing so many things and experiencing so many ups and downs, Yundai's confidence in her teacher had completely exploded. Unfortunately, her teacher wasn't willing to accept her. Giving the Chaotic Sky Chronicle to her teacher was the best repayment she could give him. Perhaps after entering the time altar, the distorted time would also affect her teacher's decision and make him willing to accept her. Thinking of this, Yundai blushed red and a faint sheen of tears appeared in her eyes. Chenyu looked up at the heavens, speechless. If he could choose, he wouldn't want to go in. Moreover, it's fine if you want to go in, but why are you blushing? It's fine if you're blushing, but what's with that bashful look when you look at me? Those that don't know the inside story might think that I did something to you. You're being wronged. Cough. Teacher has his own arrangements. You can stay outside. Chenyu walked away, not giving her a chance to speak. As the entrance to the time mystic realm opened, the mysterious strength that covered the time altar vanished. With just a few steps, Chenyu arrived at the entrance. He took a deep breath, clenched his teeth, and stepped forwards. Little blue lamp, we haven't seen each other in a long time, so don't try to trick me. It was like passing through a layer of icy water. A chill instantly invaded his body, reaching deep into his marrow. Even his consciousness paused for a brief moment. When he returned to his senses, he'd already appeared in a misty world, and his surroundings were completely empty. Besides the ground beneath his feet, there was nothing else. This is the secret realm of time? It's much bigger than I imagined. There doesn't seem to be an end to it. Chenyu silently thought. The little blue lamp's thoughts were calm. In truth, this is only an illusion. As his voice fell, Chenyu's eyes brightened. In the next moment, in the boundless space, many straight lines appeared. They were neatly arranged, with one appearing at the same distance apart, and they continued to spread outwards until they reached the end of their vision. This thing? A mirror? Chenyu's eyes widened as he suddenly reacted. The little blue lamp said, "What you said isn't wrong. To be more precise, this is a spatial duplication and overlapping built upon the power of time. It is a very high-end ability that can extend an area the size of a room to infinity. It seems that this place has an even greater origin than I thought." Chenyu, he had a very bad premonition. He thought for a moment and earnestly said, "If you don't have full confidence, can we consider giving up?" The little blue lamp lightly said, "It's too late." After the time altar accepted the sacrifice of the star cutting grass, it already began. Chinyu rubbed his temples. "Then what can I do?" "You don't need to do anything." "Chinyu, asterisk and percent and yen if you don't need to do anything. Then what am I supposed to do?" "Are you at the altar? Can you open the door?" "I want to go out." "Don't waste your efforts. It can't hear your thoughts, and even if you shout yourself hoarse, it's useless." Since Qin, you had his eyes on this altar and wanted to seize the power of time contained within. The little blue lamp had already prepared a response. Everything here was isolated from the outside world. Otherwise, as soon as he tried to do anything, he would be sensed by the creator of the time altar. If that were the case, he might as well go home and play with mud. In truth, what I've said is a bit inaccurate. You need to wait here for my arrangements to take effect, and then follow my instructions to complete the final and most critical step. So, you must stay here. Chinyu bitterly smiled. "I don't seem to have any other choice. You must be careful and not mess around." He only had one life. If he gave it away, it would be gone. Spatial duplication and overlapping built upon the power of time. He simply couldn't understand it. But this sort of high and mighty term clearly represented a heaven-shaking strength. To provoke such an existence, just a casual wave of a hand would be enough to cause him to die without a grave. Indeed, something like the little blue lamp that had a heaven-defying attribute shouldn't have appeared here. Every time it did, something major would happen. If he could live past today, then it would be best if they met as little as possible in the future. The little blue lamp. It suddenly felt a stifling feeling in its heart. My companion was originally a strong, hard-working, and powerful youth of the cultivation world. How could he have become like this after not contacting him for a period of time? The overlapping of the power of time and space could cause a cultivator's personality to change. He had never heard of such a phenomenon happening before. The little blue lamp fell silent. It carefully sensed the connection between it and Chinyu. After a long time, it let out a long breath. It was still the same Chinyu. His body hadn't been seized by someone. As it thought of the possibility that he would be like this in the future, the little blue lamp felt tired. It wondered if it would ever have the chance to change to a new and amazing companion. "I'm waiting online. I'm very anxious." Chinyu took out the container of medicines and placed it to the side. Then he closed his eyes and tried to sense the changes in his body. One day in the outside world was 30 days inside. This was a difference of 30 times the flow of time. It was simply unbelievable. If he could sense 2 or 3 times and obtain just a tiny harvest, it would be enough for him to benefit greatly. 2 hours. 4 hours. 6 hours. Chinyu opened his eyes and sighed. "As I thought, wanting to perceive the power of time is nothing more than the ravings of an idiot." His legs were numb from sitting, and he hadn't obtained any harvests at all. There didn't seem to be any difference between staying in the time mystic realm and staying in the outside world. The only difference was that the concentration of spiritual power in the air here was much higher than in the outside world. However, Qin, had never relied on the spiritual power of the outside world to cultivate. To him, this was of little value and basically had no effect. The little blue lamp was left speechless. The power of time. Only when one stepped onto the peak of cultivation and completely solidified their domain, reaching a level where a single thought could cause the world to descend upon them, would they be able to control this supreme strength. In the legends, when one reached a profound understanding of the Tao of time, they could even summon the river of time and reverse its flow in a small area, reviving all life that had been extinguished in the river of time. In the myriad heavens and realms, there were countless supreme beings that yearned to comprehend the mysteries of the power of time, but couldn't. With Qin Yu's cultivation, wanting to touch upon the power of time was simply the ravings of an idiot. 10,000. If Qin Yu really succeeded, then that would truly be unreasonable. As the little blue lamp decided to remain silent, Qin Yu looked for him on his own initiative. "Little blue, do you have a way for me to control the power of time?" "Ha ha, If I had this ability, then I would have already unified the heavens and become the ruler of the great desolate. Why would I need to go through so much trouble hiding? Moreover, what the hell was this little blue? I don't. The refusal was straightforward. Chinyu revealed a disappointed expression. I thought there was nothing you couldn't do, but it turns out there are things you can't do. The little blue lamp continued to chuckle. What nonsense. There were many things it couldn't do. Is there really no way? Chinyu continued to ask. The little blue lamp was about to pour a bucket of cold water over Chinyu's head to extinguish his unrealistic thoughts, but then he suddenly thought of something. In truth, it's not like there's no chance. Chinyu's eyes brightened. Little blue, hurry up and tell me. The little blue lamp clenched its teeth. Don't call me little blue. Okay, little blue, hurry up and tell me. Don't delay me. I said don't call me. I understand, little blue. The little blue lamp was silent for a moment. Then, its voice was particularly faint. Just now you exchanged for a myriad sage fruit from the time altar. Eat it and meditate on it. If your luck is good, you might be able to obtain some harvests. Chinyu flipped his hand and took out the myriad sage fruit. Eat it. That's right. Thank you, little blue. The little blue lamp watched as Chinyu finished off the fruit in 2 or 3 bites, and even a core. Then, he closed his eyes and continued to meditate. The little blue lamp sneered. The myriad sage fruit could be considered a small top-grade spirit fruit that could assist in cultivation. After eating it and meditating on it, there would be an extra boost to one's perception. But to rely on the myriad sage fruit to meditate on the power of time, there are only 3 words to describe it. Ha! If it were really useful, then it would have already been snatched up by the great figures of the universe. Of course, that didn't mean there was no chance at all. After all, the power of time itself had its own corresponding time laws. As long as one diligently meditated on it, there would eventually be a chance to touch upon it. Of course, just like the little blue lamp said, one needed enough luck. As for how much luck was enough, if it was as high as the heavens, then it would be enough if it was multiplied by several tens of thousands of times. The little blue lamp closed its eyes, waiting to see Chinyu's disappointed expression. This companion of his needed to experience some setbacks in order to restore his twisted nature. He focused his mind and sensed the star-cutting grass leaves that he had sacrificed. The traps he had laid down ahead of time were about to be triggered. If everything went smoothly, he should be able to achieve his goal. Fusing with the strength of the time altar would be far more beneficial to him. At the very least, this power of space would be able to allow the world that had slowed down to step back onto the track of rapid expansion. However, there were some loose ends that he had to thoroughly clean up. Otherwise, if they caught up to him, the consequences would be dire. After an unknown period of time, a strange fluctuation appeared. The little blue lamp's thoughts trembled as if it had been electrocuted. Am I dreaming? Chapter 766. Within the time mystic realm, Chinyu sat down cross-legged. If one looked carefully, they would discover that the space around him was shrinking at an extremely small rate. There were slight fluctuations. It wasn't his own aura that was causing space to change, but the flow of time around Chinyu had changed. With the little blue lamp's vision, it was impossible for him to be wrong about what this meant. But even after looking for a long time, he still couldn't believe it. What kind of joke was this? This was different from the simple 5 elemental laws of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Rather, it was the supreme power of time. With a single thought, he could change the flow of time, and the heavens were beneath his feet. Only a big boss amongst big bosses, a peak amongst peak existences, had the qualifications to touch this power. Even for him, if it weren't for his status, it would have been impossible for him to possess the power to control time in his current weakened state. But now, he could clearly feel a factor affecting time from Chinyu's body. This didn't make any sense at all. Could it be that in the years he had been asleep, the myriad enlightenment fruit had been cultivated to a new effect? But he wasn't blind. The fruit that Chinyu was chewing on was clearly the most ordinary myriad enlightenment fruit. Although his memories weren't complete, He could vaguely remember eating this fruit as a snack a long time ago. The little blue lamp took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He had an ability that transcended his body. With a single thought, he could enter a programmed state. This was a kind of talent that was extremely useful in a critical moment. The space in front of Chin Yu suddenly collapsed. A great sun phantom appeared in the pitch-black darkness. Then, a figure condensed, blurry and indistinct. After quietly watching for several breaths of time, the great sun phantom lifted a hand and pointed at Chin Yu's eyebrows. The fingertip passed through the great sun's aura, revealing a slender fingertip that shined with a jade-like halo. It gently fell between Chin Yu's eyebrows. Chin Yu frowned, as if he could feel something. But he soon composed himself. After a long time, the fingertip retracted back into the sun phantom. He whispered, "It's actually true. What is the reason?" Indifferent and calm, without any fluctuations of emotion. After a moment of silence, the great sun phantom gently waved its hand. The sun phantom suddenly enlarged, covering Chin Yu. Green trees formed a forest, overflowing with an ancient aura. It was a small hill with a radius of only a few hundred meters and a height of about 70 to 80 meters. If it wasn't for the ancestral shrine built on top of the hill, it wouldn't be eye-catching at all. One could easily find hundreds or even thousands of similar places. However, with this ancestral shrine, even if it was only one of the countless ordinary mountains, it became even more extraordinary, and it had the qualifications to look down on the heavens and 10,000 worlds. This was because the horizontal board of this ancestral shrine had a black background with the word Hua in gold, surrounded by intricate patterns. The black represented the endless abyss, the gold represented the nobility, and the patterns represented the materialization of the rules. Clang! Clang! In front of the ancestral shrine, there was a brass bell tied to a crooked locust tree. The mouth of the bell was facing downwards, casting a faint shadow under the sunlight. The bell tolled, but the brass bell attached to the locust tree didn't move in the slightest. What truly shook and trembled was the shadow cast down from the ground. Perhaps it was because the information it sensed was not important enough for it to shake its tired body, so it let the shadow speak for it. There was a small courtyard at the base of the hill. There was a courtyard gate, a fence, and a single room, all of it woven and constructed from bamboo. The sound of a bell echoed out, and the door opened from within. A man in plain white robes walked out. At first glance, he looked to be in his 30s, but at second glance, he felt as if he were in his 50s. Looking at him any longer, he felt as if he were facing a dignified and amiable elder. In short, this was a man whose age was a mystery. He looked up at the hill and at the ancestral shrine hidden in the trees. A smile appeared on his face. He stepped out and followed the stone steps up the hill. It was unknown how many people had passed by, but the surface of the stone steps had been polished smooth as if they had been coated with a layer of paste. Standing in front of the ancestral shrine, he lifted a hand and the ringing of the bell vanished. The gently swaying bell silhouette returned to tranquility. He couldn't help but shake his head. You really are becoming more and more lazy. If you continue like this, what use are you? The brass bell was silent. Although it didn't say a word, it vividly displayed the word proud, disdainful, and disdainful. The man shook his head helplessly, but he also understood its temperament. He didn't delay any longer and bowed towards the entrance of the ancestral shrine. Then, he lifted a hand into the void and closed his eyes to receive information from the ancestral shrine. Soon, he opened his eyes, a look of joy on his face. The power of time. He quickly thought about the several people in his tribe who might be able to break through. But no one met the conditions. The man's face lit up with joy. It isn't that there are several people who are about to break through. Could it be that another proud son of heaven has appeared in my tribe and touched upon the path of time ahead of time? With a flick of his sleeves, a golden book appeared in front of him. It opened on its own, and on each page, a figure was projected. What they had in common was that they were all young, arrogant, and extraordinary. The golden book flipped through page after page, but no one met the conditions. He couldn't help but furrow his eyebrows. It seems that this is the pearl of my tribe that has been overlooked. There is no such thing as absolute fairness in this world. Even within his tribe, there were many shady matters. But a proud son of heaven that could comprehend the power of time could not be suppressed in any way. If this was true, then someone would have to pay a heavy price. The man revealed a dignified expression. With a flick of his sleeves, the golden book grew thicker. Page after page flipped through, recording the basic information of everyone in his tribe. Filtering slowly like this would take up a great deal of time. But compared to finding a proud son of heaven that had touched upon the power of time, it was worth it. 2 hours later, the last page of the golden book closed. The white-robed cultivator, whose age was a mystery, frowned, his face dignified. No one. He compared the entire golden book and pulled out everyone in his tribe. But no one matched the information transmitted to him by the ancestral shrine. There was only one explanation for this. The person who touched upon the power of time wasn't in the golden book. How was this possible? When all tribe members were born, their blood essence would be collected and they would be protected by the ancestral shrine. Their information would be recorded into the golden book. But now, there was no information about this person in the golden book. Could it be that there was a bloodline of his tribe left behind in this world? This person put away the golden booklet and turned to leave. He walked down the hill and pushed open the door to enter the courtyard. When the door opened, his feet landed on the ground. In front of him was an incomparably magnificent palace. Endless majesty and a noble aura swept out in all directions. Joe, why did you leave the ancestral shrine without permission? The sunlight receded to reveal Chin Yu sitting cross-legged. The space fluctuations around him had stabilized. This meant that he had truly touched upon the path of time. Although this was only the tip of the iceberg, and he was still far from crossing the threshold, and he was even unable to use it with his current cultivation, this was still the power of time. It also represented an invitation that led to the peak of the highest level. As long as he didn't die in the future, once Chin Yu's cultivation met the requirements, he could push open the door and truly control the power of time. The figure covered in sunlight would never admit that he was jealous of Chin Yu. But to be able to touch upon the path of time at his current cultivation and age, even looking at the myriad heavens and myriad worlds, he wouldn't be any weaker than those so-called proud sons of heaven. If his cultivation conditions were taken into account, he might even surpass them by a great deal. He would be smashed into the ground and beaten up in midair. He is truly worthy of being a descendant of that legendary race. The power of his bloodline is actually so formidable. I originally thought that Chin Yu wouldn't be discovered for a short period of time, but since he has touched upon the path of time, he will inevitably be discovered by that race. I fear this will be troublesome. The little blue lamp didn't believe that after Chin Yu was discovered, what would happen next would be a scene of him hugging his head and recognizing his kin. This was because when he personally came to investigate, he discovered a secret. The reason Chin Yu's bloodline could be hidden without being discovered was because it had been stripped away not long after he was born. It was just that Chin Yu's innate physique was different from that of an ordinary person, and his bloodline hadn't been thoroughly extracted. Moreover, there had been some mutations that caused his bloodline to instinctively enter a hidden state. The better a companion's talent, the more advantageous it was for it. But sometimes being too good could also cause a headache. You say I'm troublesome? You are the greatest troublesome one. Every time something happens, I have to help you clean up the mess. The little blue lamp's resentment rose. He had already withdrawn from that state where the heavens and earth were all external objects to him. In truth, although this state allowed him to make the most rational decisions that suited his own interests, he didn't like it. It was like he wasn't himself and had transformed into another consciousness. After complaining, the little blue lamp looked at Chin Yu, who was still cultivating with his eyes closed. He frowned. He had to help Chin Yu avoid this. The Radiance Temple Master stood in front of the dressing table. She poured magic power into the mirror. The surface of the mirror fluctuated and soon turned dark. In this pitch-black darkness, a light voice sounded out. "Why did you contact me?" The Radiance Temple Master sucked in a deep breath. The right to use the time altar was seized by the hidden fog sect. As she spoke of this, she couldn't help but think of the myriad enlightenment fruit, and her heart began to ache. The voice in the darkness was silent for several breaths of time. "Tell me the entire story." With Radiance Temple's background, they had actually failed. This was beyond his expectations once more. The Radiance Temple Master didn't hide anything. She quickly explained what had happened. The darkness in the mirror fell silent. It was him again. It was because of Ning Qin that their plans had failed several times. It seemed that it was reasonable for the Parliament to value him so much. "I understand." After speaking, the mirror rapidly restored itself to its original state. The Radiance Temple Master relaxed. What she feared the most was that the other party wouldn't interfere anymore. But now, it seemed that they hadn't changed their original intention of dealing with the Hidden Fog sect. Although she wasn't sure of the identity of the person in the mirror, she didn't doubt their strength at all. If it weren't for the strength they had displayed that they could absolutely trust, then with her status, how could she have easily agreed to cooperate with them? If it weren't for that mysterious black-robed man suddenly appearing from the Hidden Fog sect, Radiance Temple would have already emerged from the crowd and seized the position of champion of the arena. How hateful! In a small courtyard, the middle-aged man brewing tea paused for a moment. Then, he drained his cup of tea and slowly placed it on the table. "I have a feeling that Ning Qin will be a great calamity in the future. If we cannot eliminate him soon, he will endanger the safety of the Parliament in the future. The time altar, then let this place be your burial ground. To have such a mystical and mystic realm as your grave, you should feel gratified." Chapter 767. Within the time mystic realm, the great sun figure rapidly moved. His fingertips pointed at the void, each finger causing ripples to appear. All of the ripples collided with each other, gradually fusing together. It was like an invisible water surface that covered Qinyu. He had to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Even if that clan discovered him and chased after him, he could isolate Qinyu's aura so that he wouldn't be locked onto. At this time, the great sun phantom paused and then extinguished. The collapsed space was restored to how it was in the beginning. In the next moment, an invisible thought crossed through the endless space and arrived. The spatial fluctuations around Qinyu intensified, as if it would shatter at any moment. Within Qinyu's soul space, the great sun phantom had shifted here. As it felt the aura of the outside world, the atmosphere became extremely dignified. "This is bad. A powerhouse of this level has actually taken action. This is troublesome." In a hall filled with a monstrous aura, the mysterious man named Autumn had a dignified expression. In front of him, the patriarch sat quietly with his eyes closed. Suddenly, the patriarch coughed and opened his eyes. Endless thunder appeared within them. "Patriarch, is there really a bloodline of my clan that has wandered outside?" Autumn furrowed his eyebrows, his voice heavy. "It seems to be the case now." The patriarch's voice was calm. "I don't know the exact reason, but since he is my clan's bloodline, we must bring him back to the clan." He lifted a hand. On the 12 stone pillars of the hall, the eyes of the beasts carved into them lit up, and they emitted deep roars. In that moment, his divine sense traced back to the source and found that bloodline descendant. But he had been isolated from the outside world by some strength. In this world, there weren't too few people that could stop him, but there weren't too many either. How could such a character have coincidentally appeared beside this bloodline descendant? The patriarch couldn't help but think about it. After all, in the endless heavens, there were countless people that coveted their bloodline. From ancient times until now, they had never been able to kill all of them. No matter what, this clansman that had wandered outside had to be brought back to the clan. He could not be allowed to fall into the hands of those with evil intentions. "Open!" With a loud shout, light shot out from the eyes of the 12 beasts. The light gathered together into a vortex that opened a channel. From within the patriarch's body, a phantom rose up and stepped inside. The moment the vortex formed and opened up a channel, the space-time secret realm sensed it. The projections of the great sun and small blue lamps looked up and locked onto a certain space. He could already feel the terrifying strength that was currently descending. It was like an abyss, like a prison, like a boundless ocean. With a single thought, it could cause the heavens and earth to collapse. There was a peerless powerhouse that was currently using the ability to trace back to the source to lock onto this place, forcefully opening up a space to descend. It was clear that the person who had just arrived was the one who had failed to investigate Chinyu. Once this person arrived, it would be impossible to conceal the existence of the little blue lamp. If he were to be discovered, a great calamity would surely follow. At that time, Chinyu would absolutely die. Thus, there was only one choice left for the little blue lamp: to immediately leave. Otherwise, not only would it not be able to help Chinyu, but it would also send him beyond redemption. If he was taken away by that clan, perhaps there would be some other turning point. "I'm sorry, Chinyu," the little blue lamp whispered. The moment its voice fell, the figure within the great sun became cold and indifferent. He once again allowed himself to enter a state where heaven and earth were illusory to him. Indeed, he didn't like it, but in this state, he could quickly make a decision. The great sun phantom trembled. It was about to shatter space and leave. But at this time, the entire time mystic realm suddenly trembled. Runes appeared one after another, each one emitting a sharp aura. They were like invisible swords that could cut apart all. The trick he had placed on the star cutting grass had taken effect. According to the original plan, Chinyu should have attacked at this time to complete the final step of activating the runes and seize the time mystic realm. But now he had fallen into a state of sudden enlightenment, and the little blue lamp couldn't take the initiative to attack. All of his arrangements had been in vain. Moreover, if he couldn't smoothly activate the runes, everything that happened here would be discovered by the creator of the time altar. The already dim great sun phantom that had nearly escaped into space paused for a moment. Then it came to a stop in this state. Perhaps there was still a chance. Even if the chances were slim, he still had to try. If anything went wrong, the little blue lamp would immediately leave. He still didn't undo his transcendent state. The reason he chose to stay behind was because this was more advantageous to him. If something were to happen to Chinyu, he would lose his companions and the road to recovery would be infinitely far away. A celestial mountain floated in the highest heavens. Stars and moons shined overhead, gathering into a vast galaxy. A grand banquet was being held on this celestial mountain. Transcendent sword immortals had taken action and flattened the summit of the mountain as the venue. White jade tables were arranged in rows. Immortal maidens danced, and the clouds gently tumbled. This was the atmosphere of a celestial immortal. Behind every white jade table sat a figure. Most of their faces were blurry and indistinct. This wasn't because they were using some concealing technique, but because the rules of the world were actively concealing them. If one's cultivation didn't reach a certain degree, it was impossible to see them clearly. At this time, the dance of the immortal maidens reached its climax. Some people cheered out loud. Behind the seventh white jade table on the left, a red-haired Taoist faintly smiled. He picked up a cup of wine and drank with his companions. As he lifted his hand to drink, his eyes flashed. In that instant, it seemed as if a radiant saber light cut through the highest heavens. The saber light burned with raging flames, igniting all the clouds in the skies. The flames raged and raged, as if they would never be extinguished. Over the years, one of the places that he had set up had been touched by someone. This was originally a very common thing, but this time, it was rather interesting. Not only had the person discovered his intentions, but he had also wanted to swallow his bait whole. It had been a long time since he had encountered such an interesting person. The red-haired Taoist put down his cup of wine and closed his eyes. Since this was a place he had arranged, he naturally had a way to control it. If it weren't for this, He wouldn't have laid down bait to fish for the heavens, but would have foolishly delivered a generous gift to someone. But the moment he closed his eyes, the calm red-haired Taoist's eyebrows fiercely jumped. Through his connection with the time altar, he discovered a powerful aura locking onto him. Moreover, he wasn't unfamiliar with the origin of this aura at all. It was actually that tribe. Could it be that the one who wanted to eat his bait was a cultivator from their tribe? Feeling the powerful aura that was about to arrive, the red-haired Taoist fell silent. He decided to retreat. But this didn't mean that he would give up on this time altar. Every bit of the power of time was incomparably difficult to obtain. Once he lost it, it would mean that he had regressed in the path of time. Even if it was someone from that tribe, they could forget about harming his cultivation, to erupt with strength and warn them that this altar had an owner was the correct way to open it. Then, the cultivators of that tribe would retreat in the face of difficulties, and both sides would drop the matter. The red-haired Taoist lifted a hand and brought two fingers together. He gently drew a line in front of him. Space quietly split open, swallowing up the flames. Within the space channel, the patriarch's avatar suddenly frowned. He came to a stop. With a flick of his sleeves, a massive expanse of darkness appeared, condensing into an endless abyss. In the next moment, flames appeared. They erupted from the size of a star, instantly burning the heavens. Saber light cut into the abyss. The darkness was split apart. When the two sides collided, it was like cold water being poured into a pot of boiling oil. With loud crackling sounds, an intense collision erupted. Terrifying strength wreaked havoc. The patriarch's avatar coldly snorted. He lifted a hand and pressed down. The damaged space channel immediately calmed down. Looking at the endless saber fire that seemed as if it would never be extinguished, the patriarch's avatar's eyes were ice cold. Scarlet Sky. It seemed that the one who had blocked his will from descending was him. Although this person was a newly ascended undying, his cultivation was extremely formidable. Even amongst the undying ranks, he was ranked near the top. Moreover, the patriarch just happened to know that not too long ago, Scarlet Sky had fought with a master of his tribe for a treasure. Although the result ended in failure, his inextinguishable flame saber intent had caused that person to suffer greatly, and even now he still hadn't recovered. Afterwards, intentionally or unintentionally, Scarlet Sky had several more conflicts with the tribe. Information about this person was transmitted to the patriarch's avatar with a thought. According to the information gathered by the tribe, besides being formidable, Scarlet Sky was also extremely narrow-minded. The patriarch's avatar frowned even more. A cold chill flowed in his eyes. If Scarlet Sky really wanted to control the bloodline of the tribe that had wandered outside, he didn't mind using an undying to raise a flag so that all those who coveted it would know just what the consequences were of secretly acting against it. He lifted a hand and grasped forwards. The flames that recklessly burned in the dark abyss seemed to be sucked out of them, instantly extinguishing. Dragon City, 10 miles outside the Shadow Clan station, there was an inn that had been in business for several hundred years. Because of its cleanliness, elegance, and good service, its business was booming. Especially now that the arena was opened, the rooms were filled to the brim. No one knew that this coveted inn was the Dark Parliament's most important stronghold in Dragon City. This was because the meaning of its existence was to attempt to seize the mysterious altar that contained the power of time within the Shadow Clan station. Yes, that wasn't wrong. The Dark Parliament knew about the time altar in Dragon City, and besides them, there were even some other influences that knew about it. There was no wall in this world that didn't have a crack, much less the 7 great sects and the Shadow Clan that knew about the time altar. Of course, it was impossible for ordinary people to come into contact with this information. Those that had the qualifications to know also maintained their silence. There was no need for them to jump out and be targeted by the 7 great sects and the Shadow Clan. From top to bottom, one's gaze passed through layers upon layers of guest rooms, dining rooms, entertainment rooms, and then into the underground storage rooms and the open seclusion chambers. Then, after several hundred meters, the faint traces of an array formation appeared. Even if a cultivator swept through it with their divine sense, unless they carefully compared it inch by inch, it would be covered up by the power of the array formation. 1,000 meters underground, a series of underground buildings appeared. They were in the shape of rings that intertwined with each other, forming an even larger circle. This was an array formation used to seize the time altar. Although it had been built for many years, it was still incomplete and was in a state of constant adjustment. But today, this incomplete array formation had clearly been activated. The 27 interlocking rings flowed with a dazzling light. At the core of the array formation, a middle-aged man who loved to drink tea had an indifferent expression. He lifted his hand and crushed the control crystal in his palm. Bang! The entire array formation strength was released to the max. Its target was the time altar within the Shadow Clan station. This was doomed to be an impossible attempt. It might even destroy the Dark Parliament's many years of preparations. But its purpose wasn't to seize the altar, but to enrage it and detonate the power of time contained within it. Chapter 768. When the tea-loving middle-aged man unsheathed his saber, the time mystic realm instantly reacted. The endless gray space began to shake and cracks began to appear in the stable layers. In theory, these vibrations could easily kill a great Dao realm cultivator. But the moment they approached Qin Yu, they vanished. Within his soul space, within the half-hidden great sun phantom, a sharp light flashed in the little blue lamps in different eyes. In that instant, he found a way to save Qin Yu. As for whether or not it would work, he didn't have time to consider it. Following his instincts, the little blue lamp immediately responded. His aura erupted into the void, causing the time mystic realm to shake even more violently. Another third party had taken action, as if they wanted to use the power of the time mystic realm to kill Qin Yu. But this just happened to give the little blue lamp a chance to interfere and thoroughly muddy the waters. Now, all that was left was to see how Qin Yu's luck was. The great figure he was scheming against, the existence that had constructed the time altar, would proceed according to the predicted trajectory. No one knew what the result would be. Life or death was decided by a single thought. Celestial Mountain Banquet. Daoist Scarlet Firmament's complexion darkened. He could feel his saber intent being swallowed up by the endless darkness. Even after he revealed his identity and attitude, the other party was still so unyielding. Could it be that today's events were deliberately planned by that clan? From the very start, it was precisely because of his time altar, wanting to snatch it away as a type of warning to him? How hateful! Scarlet Firmament clenched his fists. Saber light crisscrossed in the depths of his eyes, blazing hot and cruel, as if it could cut apart the world. His thoughts raced. Those that could step into the immortal realm naturally weren't stupid. No matter how angry he was well aware of the disparity in strength between them. Although he had become an immortal and didn't fear any enemy with his saber in hand, facing that clan, he was doomed to have no chance of victory. Retreat. He could only retreat. This was because from the darkness that swallowed up his saber light, Scarlet Firmament could feel the other party's strength, their rock-firm conviction, and their thick killing intent. And this killing intent was actually able to stir up restlessness in his Dao heart. From this, it could be seen that this other party had the qualifications to truly threaten his life. Those that became immortal would have an infinite lifespan. They would no longer have to suffer the pain of their vitality being exhausted and their Dao fading away. In the future, there would be plenty of ways to take back today's humiliation. It was only a time altar. I'll give it to you. One day, I will have you repay me 10 times, 100 times over. Even if they were as powerful as that race, it wasn't like they didn't have any enemies in the entire universe. All Crimson Firmament needed was an opportunity. Behind the 6th white jade table from the upper left sat a woman dressed in an emperor's robe. She wore an emperor's crown on her head and looked graceful and luxurious. On her blurry face, only a pair of eyes could be seen clearly. They contained endless majesty and oppression. At this moment, she looked down at Dao's scarlet firmament and frowned. Although his aura concealment technique was incomparably brilliant, as his best friend, she could still faintly sense some of the changes in his aura. His lips moved slightly, and his voice sounded directly beside his ear. "What happened?" Qi Shao exhaled and said calmly, "It doesn't matter. After the banquet, I will talk to female monarch in detail." The Empress nodded and raised her wine glass. "Cheers." Qi Shao smiled and nodded. He picked up the wine glass, but before he could bring it to his mouth, the power of his 5 fingers burst out, shattering the glass into pieces. A blazing hot aura instantly burned away the wine. Surprised eyes gathered on him. Qi Shao clenched his teeth. "You've gone too far." Just now, he felt a formidable strength erupt from the time altar. What the other party wanted wasn't the time altar, but to use it as a medium to display the laws of destruction and destroy his great Tao. This enmity was absolutely irreconcilable. The saber Tao that Qi Shao cultivated was fierce to begin with. It had the potential to burn the heavens and boil the seas. Now that he was forced into a desperate situation, if he retreated any further, his Tao heart would be damaged and his future cultivation would be shackled. His thoughts raced. Dao's scarlet firmament made a decision. He would completely break away from that race. The Empress could feel the resolute aura coming from her good friend. She said, "Qi Shao, you must consider everything carefully." Qi Shao nodded. "Thank you for the reminder, female monarch. But today, I have nowhere to retreat." He stood up and swept his eyes around. Today at the banquet, Qi Shao was the one who disturbed the mood of fellow Taoists. "This is my fault. Just now, the cultivators of that race attacked, wanting to secretly destroy the foundation of my cultivation. The entire mountain was silent. To destroy the Tao foundation of an immortal, wanting to throw them into the mortal world so that there was no chance for them to rise again. Comparatively speaking, this was even more terrifying than killing someone. As for the identity of that race, in the endless heavens and myriad worlds, there was only one existence that the immortals couldn't speak of." Qi Zhao's face was like ice. "Although my influence is weak, I will not sit here and wait for death to come. I will not be a sheep that can be slaughtered by others. Today, I will kill the cultivators of that bloodline and use their blood as a sacrifice. I will vow that from now on, I will be irreconcilable enemies with them." He lifted a hand. The vast galaxy of stars and moon instantly dimmed and lost color. A brilliant flame appeared, cutting across the horizon and vanishing into the endless nothingness. That race, if they want to use the time altar as an excuse to try and destroy my great Tao, then be prepared to suffer my wrath. Within the spatial channel, the patriarch's avatar's eyes were ice cold. "You are courting death." With a loud shout, he lifted a hand and grasped forwards. Dazzling golden light appeared from nothingness and rapidly gathered in his palm. In the blink of an eye, a golden sword appeared. It was only a translucent phantom, but even so, it still emitted a terrifying strength that froze space. He lifted a hand and slashed out. The golden sword phantom flashed. In the next moment, the spatial channel in front of him was directly split in half. Blazing flames crossed through space, descending with the intent of annihilation. Rumble, rumble. The golden sword light cut into the flames. Trillions of saber lights appeared within. There was a heaven-shaking collision that erupted. The trembling time altar suddenly came to a standstill. In the next moment, the countless layers of duplicated space vanished from sight. All that remained was the interior of the altar. At first, there was a space the size of a house. But then, countless cracks appeared, rapidly spreading to every inch of the altar. A rich power of time erupted from within. It was like an erupting wave that gathered together, forming a heaven-shaking tsunami. Wherever it passed, nothing was destroyed. An illusory figure appeared in the destructive tsunami. Its appearance was unclear, but the aura it emitted was nearly the same as the bloodline hidden within Qin Yu's body. After struggling for several moments, it was thoroughly crushed. Flesh and blood scattered in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it was erased, forever vanishing from the world. Within the soul space, within the half-hidden sun, the figure became much more blurry. In order to simulate the aura of that race, he had consumed far too much strength. He no longer had any strength left over. Whether or not Qin Yu could survive, the critical moment was about to arrive. He could only hope that his actions weren't in vain. At the banquet atop the mountain peak, Daoist Scarlet Firmament lifted his hand and slashed out with heaven-burning flames. After a brief period of calm, the complexions of everyone present changed. In the next moment, the heavens split apart and a golden sword light crossed through space. Although it only locked on a scarlet firmament, everyone who saw it could clearly feel the destructive strength contained within it. "Come," Scarlet Firmament laughed. With a thought, trillions of flames appeared in the air. These flames had their own spirituality, and they condensed into giant flame giants or vicious beasts. They reared their heads back and roared into the heavens. Their voices billowed out, and a terrifying heat burned all into nothingness. Chapter 769. A domain world was created by an undying with a single thought. It could be seen as real or as illusory. It overlapped with the main world and could change according to the thoughts of the ruler of the domain, whether or not it interfered with the existence of the main world. Thus, at this moment, the entire banquet site was enveloped in a world of flames. But to everyone apart from Daoist Scarlet Firmament, the raging flames in front of them were nothing but illusions that wouldn't harm them at all. Of course, with the strength of an undying, they could clearly feel the strength contained within these illusory flames. Once they erupted, it was enough to burn the entire celestial mountain into nothingness. But as long as Scarlet Firmament wasn't crazy, he absolutely wouldn't dare to let this battle affect the banquet. Otherwise, there would be no need for that clan to do anything, and he would be in deep trouble. For today's banquet to be able to invite so many undying, the status of the guests naturally wasn't ordinary. The figures sitting behind the 3 white jade tables were powerful characters that could make the heavens tremble with a single movement. The inextinguishable world of flames rapidly dissipated, revealing Daoist Scarlet Firmament's figure. His face was pale, and his robes had been cut open, dyed red. But his aura didn't weaken at all. Instead, it became even sharper and more powerful, as if it could pierce through the world. The great Empress's dignified eyes scattered. She cupped her hands together and said, "Congratulations, fellow Daoist. Your cultivation has been shackled for so many years, but today you have broken through and your boundary has risen yet again." Undying beings lived with the heavens and earth, no longer suffering from exhaustion. With a single thought, they could cause the heavens to collapse and the earth to cave in. Their strength was unimaginable. But on the path of cultivation, there was never an end. Even if one became an undying, they wouldn't dare say they had reached the peak. One had to know that the great Tao was boundless. To take another step in the undying realm, even if it was just a small increase, could produce an astonishing qualitative change. Daoist Scarlet Firmament's aura was weak at this time, but everyone present could clearly sense the changes in his body. Envy appeared in everyone's eyes. "Congratulations, fellow Daoist Scarlet Firmament. Amongst the undying, Brother Scarlet Firmament can rank in the top 10. From now on, no matter how vast the world is, fellow Daoist Scarlet Firmament can travel it." One undying after another spoke up to congratulate him. Even though Scarlet Firmament was an enemy of that clan, they didn't need to care too much. Even if they were as powerful as that clan, they couldn't develop hostility towards them just because of a few words of congratulations. Otherwise, they would be attacked from all sides. Moreover, with today's breakthrough, it would be more than 10 times more difficult for that clan to kill Qi Shao. There were many variables. Daoist Scarlet Firmament had a calm expression. Thank you, fellow Daoists. Just now, I killed the cultivator of that clan's bloodline and completely severed all ties with them. In the future, the Dao will be difficult, and I'm afraid I won't have the leisure to drink wine and watch the dance with fellow Daoists. He took out the wine pot. I bid you all farewell with this pot of wine. If Qi Shao doesn't die one day, I will personally hold a banquet and invite you all to drink with me. Qi Shao gulped down the wine in one gulp and threw the wine pot to the ground, smashing it into pieces. He turned around and walked away while chanting loudly, "There are thousands of methods in the world, but I only love the blade. Even if I have to go through thousands of hardships, I will still cleave a path. Even if I die, I will have no regrets. I will not regret my blade." Crimson Firmament Battlefield, his voice reverberating between heaven and earth. The words "I have no regrets once the blade is unsheathed" reverberated in the hearts of all the undying beings. Perhaps this was the key to Qi Zhao's breakthrough in such a desperate situation. Putting himself in a dead end, he was able to come back to life without any hesitation. Perhaps this result wasn't suitable for everyone, but at the very least it gave the undying beings a direction they could try. This was the same as Qi Shao leaving, sharing his breakthrough experiences with everyone in such an unremarkable manner. All the undying beings present today owed him a favor that wasn't too big nor too small. Qi Zhao's actions were perfect. In fact, they were even more perfect than what everyone saw on the surface. He had indeed lost a time altar, but he had also planted a seed. Perhaps in the future, there would be an extremely rich and sweet harvest. As he stepped forwards, Qi Shao spat out a mouthful of blood. His injuries were far more serious than they appeared on the surface. If it weren't for his cultivation making a breakthrough, he wouldn't have been able to block the Golden Sword Phantom. His mortal body might have been cut apart on the spot, and his Dao would have been greatly damaged. However, as he spat out a mouthful of blood, he reared back his head and laughed. This was because his judgment had been correct. The seed had been successfully planted. There was a chance that this would become a turning point for his future great Dao. Within the space within the time altar, the destructive power of time that erupted suddenly became gentle. It rapidly gathered together, turning into a rainbow-colored seed that fell between Qin Yu's eyebrows and fused into it. Within his soul space, the little blue lamp's eyes erupted with light. He lifted a hand and grasped forwards, causing the rainbow-colored seed to appear in his hand. After a moment of thought, he flicked his fingers. From the rainbow-colored seed, 3 wisps of rainbow-colored light flew out, winding around Qin Yu's soul. It was like an aurora that crossed the horizon in a winter night, beautiful to the extreme. It caused Qin Yu's soul to seem a bit more ethereal and illusory. After finishing all of this, the little blue lamp no longer hesitated. It grasped the rainbow-colored seed, and the sun phantom completely melted into space, vanishing from sight. This extremely dangerous calamity, where death could arrive at any moment, had finally come to a temporary end. As for what the future held, no one knew. The reformed spatial channel trembled and rapidly dissipated. This was because the source it locked onto had disappeared. This was the same as losing coordinates, and a transmission without coordinates was doomed to fail. That clansman who had comprehended the power of time had already died, and the one who killed him was Scarlet Firmament. The Patriarch's avatar was expressionless, but it was because of this that one could clearly feel the terrifying pressure emanating from his body. Those who kill my clan's bloodline must die. With a loud shout, the Patriarch's avatar followed the main body's thoughts and vanished from sight. In the Grand Hall, the Patriarch opened his eyes. "Pass down my order. From this day forth, immortal Daoist Scarlet Firmament will be placed on my clan's kill list." The man named Autumn's eyes widened. That clansman, the Patriarch, fell silent. Autumn was inexplicably sad. When he discovered that his clan's bloodline had wandered about outside, he didn't know why he was so concerned about this matter. Thus, He impatiently came to see the patriarch without any prior notice. But what a pity, this was the final result. He died. It was unknown which bloodline he inherited and why he was wandering about outside, but the clansman who comprehended the Tao of time had vanished forever. Moreover, because he had already touched upon time, it was impossible for him to revive from the river of time. There was no way to save him. Autumn took a deep breath and cupped his hands together. Patriarch, I have already served in the ancestral temple for 1,000 years. I ask that you appoint an elder to take over my duties as soon as possible. The patriarch frowned. You want to do something? Autumn nodded. Since he killed someone of my clan's bloodline, as an elder of the clan, I cannot shirk my responsibility. The patriarch thought for a moment and nodded. All right, but you must be careful. Daoist Scarlet Firmament's cultivation has made another breakthrough. He is no longer beneath you. Autumn turned and left. I will bring his head back. Not too far away from the Shadow Clan's camp, and in that had been in business for hundreds of years and enjoyed a first-class reputation in an elegantly decorated tea room. The water-boiling array formation on the table was still running. The spirit water in the kettle was already boiling. With loud, gurgling sounds, the smell of blood in the air became increasingly thick. A head that had lost all of its flesh and blood smashed open the lid of the kettle and fell on top. Hot white steam passed through its mouth and nose and gushed out from every orifice. That middle-aged man who loved to drink tea had great ambitions and was also skilled in scheming. He had smoothly unsheathed his saber, but he never imagined that this saber would be turned around by someone else, causing him to perish in body and soul, leaving behind only a skeleton. As for the descendant of that clan who had died, it wasn't enough to rely on Qin Yu's aura alone. There had to be the aura of fresh flesh and blood, so that Scarlet Firmament could determine that he had truly killed him. But this person wanted to borrow a knife to kill someone, so his own aura was already involved. If the little blue lamp traced back to its source and took his life, then it wouldn't be an injustice. Those who wish to kill do not complain even if they die. It was utter chaos. The Shadow Clan cultivators all had panic-stricken expressions as they looked towards the time altar. Even the shrewd and intelligent clan leader could not help but feel a chill from the bottom of his heart at this moment. Space cracks appeared, spewing out rainbow-hued light. Although they looked beautiful, they actually emitted a terrifying aura that could destroy all. This was because this was the power of time. The time altar that had been silent for endless years without any movement was now like a volcano that could erupt at any moment. And the Shadow Clan's camp was located on the crater of this volcano. Without a doubt, once the time altar released this strength, the entire Shadow Clan's camp would be erased from Dragon City. To the Shadow Clan, this would undoubtedly be a disaster. It would even cause irreparable damage to the clan. Just what had happened? This was the question that circled around the minds of all the Shadow Clan cultivators. Everything had been fine. If they really had to look for a variable, they could only look for that mysterious black-robed cultivator who had entered the space-time mystic realm not too long ago. The Shadow Clan patriarch hatefully glared at the group from the Hidden Fog sect. But now wasn't the time to investigate this matter. He had more important matters to attend to. Immediately evacuate all the clansmen. Take away as much as you can. As the patriarch spoke these words, his heart dripped blood. The Shadow Clan had an inheritance of hundreds of thousands of years, and their ancestors had lived here for generations. They had spent an endless amount of time and effort to build up their clan camp, but now all of that would turn to nothing in a single day. The patriarch swore to himself that if their clan camp was really destroyed, he wouldn't let this matter rest. At this time, the rainbow-colored light that was released from the ruptured space faded away like a tide. That terrifying aura that could destroy all vanished along with it. In the next moment, spatial fragments fell down, tumbling about and vanishing. It was like a broken mirror, revealing the true world below. All the noise instantly vanished. Countless eyes gathered. Shock, joy, anger, disbelief, all sorts of emotions wove together. As if sensing everyone's eyes, The black-robed figure sitting cross-legged moved. He slowly looked up and said, "Has a month already passed?" The time altar had completely vanished. Everyone had clearly sensed that terrifying aura just now. But Yu was still safe and sound. If someone said there wasn't some other reason for this, no one would believe them. "Speak, what did you do? Why did the time altar disappear?" Elder One Eye roared. After being frightened for so long, no one would be in a good mood. Moreover, the time altar that had been perfectly fine had vanished like this. The Shadow Clan patriarch lifted a hand, preventing others from speaking any further. He said, "Fellow Taoist, can you give my clan an explanation?" Yu was silent for several breaths of time. He slowly shook his head. "I'm sorry. Not long after I entered the time mystic realm, I gained some comprehensions and went into seclusion. I only just awoke, so I cannot answer Patriarch's question." Of course, this was a lie. In his mind, he had comprehended the Tao of time. Above his soul, there were three beautiful, aurora-like powers of time that lingered. In addition, the little blue lamp had said that its goal was the time altar. It was clear that its disappearance was inextricably linked to the little blue lamp. With the Shadow Clan patriarch's intelligence, he could guess that Yu was lying even if he thought about it. But after hesitating for a long time, he slowly nodded. "Since fellow Taoist doesn't know, it seems that something else happened that we didn't notice." He cupped his hands together. "Today, the clan is in chaos, so I won't keep the hidden fog sect guests any longer. Someone, send our honored guests away." They were just going to let this pass so easily. Watching Yu and the hidden fog sect leave, Elder One Eye's jaw dropped. "Patriarch, how could you let them leave? What else could I do? Invite them to stay for a meal?" The patriarch glared at him. He looked at Yu's back from afar, his eyes dignified. Before entering the time altar and after leaving, the feeling Yu gave him was completely different. That sort of aura had changed, as if he were a completely different person. Through the Shadow Clan's secret technique, he could feel that Yu was endlessly illusory and untouchable. And this sort of feeling was nearly the same as when he faced the time altar. The Shadow Clan patriarch didn't want to provoke such a character. "Time altar?" The ancient's voice was dignified. In the next moment, Yu felt as if he was being scanned from top to bottom. "Luckily, there isn't anything wrong with your body. You must be more careful in the future. You must remember that you're the only hope for the ancient race's revival. There absolutely cannot be any problems." Yu bowed. "Yes, my lord." The ancient withdrew. Chapter 770. Within the Dark Parliament, 6 flaming figures gathered around a round table. The senators were silent, the atmosphere solemn. The protector that had been sent to Dragon City to preside over this matter had already died. The Dark Parliament's secret technique hadn't been able to preserve even a fragment of his soul, and they didn't even know what he had encountered. But there was one thing that couldn't be doubted, and that was that this was inextricably related to the mysterious Ning Qin of Sky Declaring Pavilion. This was because before the Protector died, the Dark Parliament had just approved his proposal to detonate the Time Mystic Realm and borrow a knife to kill others. There was also another piece of news that couldn't be ignored. The time altar within the Shadow Clan station had already vanished. According to the Dark Parliament's information, the Protector's plan should have succeeded, but Yu was still alive. When all of these matters were connected together, the Dark Parliament's regard for Yu instantly rose by several levels. It seemed that behind Ning Qin, one could vaguely see a deep and boundless fog that shrouded him. I would like to know, during this period of time, have the senators managed to find out anything about Ning Qin's identity? Sage slowly asked. The Dark Parliament had tried to kill Yu. Although their plan had ended in failure, it had also doomed the relationship between the two sides to be irreconcilable. Only by knowing oneself and knowing the enemy could one be prepared to deal with them. No one wanted to face an unknown enemy. Jasmine said, Ning Qin's appearance was too sudden. Even now, we only know that he appeared in Sky Declaring Pavilion through Fengqing's connections. But if we want to continue investigating, it will be much more difficult. She paused for a moment and then continued. Perhaps we should change our direction. For instance, why did Ning Qin help the Hidden Fog sect? Limitless' tone was cold. I have already ordered people to investigate this. If there isn't an accident, there will soon be news. No matter what their stance was, when it came to the Dark Parliament's vital interests, they would unite against outsiders. Oriol's childish voice was icy cold. Investigating this matter can be done in the future. The key right now is how to continue with the matters of Dragon City. She swept her eyes around. Everyone, although the Dark Parliament has pursued a policy of seclusion for many years and has never exposed itself to the world on its own initiative, every time a member is killed, the Dark Parliament will seek restitution for them. This is also the reason why the Dark Parliament has been able to grow stronger for so many years. She didn't say this, but she had already expressed her attitude. The Book of the Chaos cannot be lost. No matter who stands before it, they will only be destroyed, Lone Mountain slowly said. Sage nodded. On this point, I think all the senators should have the same attitude. If no one objects, then we will immediately start the second plan. No matter what, we must prevent the Hidden Fog sect from obtaining the position of first place. Seconded. The Dark Council was on the move. Dragon City, Colosseum. There was still some time before the finals began. Practically all of the cultivators in Dragon City had already gathered here, waiting for the final battle. This year's Beast King War can be said to be full of ups and downs. The Hidden Fog sect originally had a chance to take first place, but the Blue Origin sect ruined their chance. A cultivator spoke. His tones seemed to be emotional, but his eyes revealed a hint of joy. The reason was simple. He was a supporter of Radiance Temple. If the Hidden Fog sect was eliminated early, then Radiance Temple had the highest chance of becoming the champion. As long as Radiance Temple won, he would obtain a gift from Dragon City. Benefits always came first. Qing Yuan's sect, which has always been on good terms with all parties and rarely offended anyone, would do such a thing of self-harm to kill 800 enemies. There must be a secret in it, not to mention that the Blue Origin sect remained silent afterwards. So what if they investigated it? The result cannot be changed. This time, the Hidden Fog sect has suffered a great loss. What is there to discuss about being eliminated early? Everyone, why don't you all think about who will have the last laugh in the finals? It must be Radiance Temple. How laughable. Moonkeep Tower's spirit beast can interfere with yin and yang energy. It will definitely take first place. Haha. I think the Limitless Sword sect spirit lizard is the strongest. The cultivators of the three sides soon fell into a heated debate. The topic at the beginning had already been tossed to the back of their minds. The losers didn't have the qualifications to be noticed. The finals hadn't begun, but in everyone's opinion, the Hidden Fog sect had already been eliminated. Suddenly, the cry of a sword rang out. It seemed as if it came from the horizon, but also as if it were close to their ears. The hairs on everyone's backs stood up. They could feel a chill gushing out from the depths of their hearts. The noisy arena quickly quieted down. Limitless Sword sect, sharp and cold. Even if 1,000 mountains and 10,000 rivers overlapped in front of it, it could still cut them apart. Sword cultivators walked forwards in silence. Invisible sword intent gathered around them, turning into a boundless current. It came slowly, carrying with it a strength that couldn't be resisted. It wanted to smash apart all obstacles until it obtained the final victory. At this moment, everyone could feel the Limitless Sword sect's belief in their victory. Shwa, the void flashed. The Limitless Sword sect's spirit lizard that had cultivated for over 5,000 years appeared. Its eyes were cold and indifferent, like a deep pool without any waves. This calmness was filled with pride and self-confidence. It wanted to become the victor of the Beast King War and trample all its opponents beneath its feet. Cold moonlight sprinkled down from above, awakening everyone who had fallen into the sword intent. They looked up to discover that at some unknown time, a full moon had appeared in the sky. The light dimmed a little. Threads of light fell down like a spring rain. They seemed to have their own intelligence. They gathered together like spirits, surrounding a moon-worshipping beast that had a crescent moon mark between its eyebrows. Quietly, Moonkeep Tower arrived. Unlike the limitless sword sect's vast and mighty momentum, their silent movements seemed to have more confidence in themselves. If he is strong, then let him be strong, because in the end, victory will be theirs. The spirit lizard and the moon-worshipping beast's eyes met in midair. Without needing to move, their fighting spirit filled every inch of space. The Moonkeep Tower master lifted a hand. The moon-worshipping beast hummed and meekly lowered its head, allowing her slender fingers to gently stroke its soft fur. Sword Master, even if we must fight, we should do so in the arena. I ask that you restrain yourself and not waste our energy. The Sword Sect Master nodded. What the Tower Master says is correct. Spirit Lizard, do not be impatient. Today, you'll have the chance to display your skills. The Spirit Lizard lowered its sword. It closed its eyes in meditation, like a peerless swordsman preparing its own world-shaking sword strike. Before entering the arena, the performance of the limitless sword sect and Moonkeep Tower had injected a stimulant into everyone's hearts. They were filled with awe and fear, but also incomparable excitement and urgency. But today, there was still the most crucial side that hadn't arrived. Even the supporters of the Sword Sect and Moonkeep Tower couldn't help but admit that just from the strength they had displayed, Radiance Temple's Phoenix Wand was incomparably formidable. She absolutely had the qualifications to compete for the Beast King title. Now that the Sword Sect and Moonkeep Tower had arrived, Radiance Temple wouldn't remain silent any longer. The general trend of the battle had to begin from the moment they entered the arena. It was impossible for them to allow the Sword Sect and Moonkeep Tower to gain the advantage. "They're here!" Loud shouts sounded out from the crowd. A gust of wind blew past, stirring up dust and causing everyone's robes to flutter. At the end of everyone's line of sight, the beautiful female cultivators of Radiance Temple appeared in front of everyone. This wasn't the overbearing confidence of the Sword Sect, nor was it the silent beauty of Moonkeep Tower. But in terms of attracting the attention of everyone, Radiance Temple's natural beauty naturally attracted the most attention. Many cultivators were dazzled, their eyes almost glued to their bodies. Radiance Temple's female cultivators were beautiful on one hand, but because of their cultivation methods, each and every one of their actions had the power to affect the hearts of others. The Radiance Temple Master Bei Qiong had a calm expression. Her pearl-like eyes swept over the audience. "I apologize. I was delayed by some matters and came late." Not too long ago, Radiance Temple had undergone an internal debate. Finally, with a slight advantage, they had made a decision. Bei Qiong knew that her actions had aroused the dissatisfaction of some elders. But as long as she could win and allow Radiance Temple to rise to the top, all criticism would vanish. The Sword Sovereign's eyes flashed. "North Qiong Temple Master, since Radiance Temple has arrived, where is your Phoenix Wand?" The 7 great sects had a delicate relationship with the Shadow Clan, so they naturally had their own arrangements. Although it was difficult to investigate what happened at the time altar a few days ago because of the Shadow Clan silence, there was still some news that had been leaked out. Radiance Temple's Phoenix Wand had borrowed the power of time to break through, but it had been interrupted by the Hidden Fog sect. One didn't need to be a genius to know that their situation wasn't good. If there was a problem with the Phoenix Wand, then there would only be the limitless Sword Sect and Moonkeep Tower left in today's battle. The Moonkeep Tower Master had a calm expression, as if she didn't care about this matter at all. Or it could be said that she had enough confidence that no matter what happened to Radiance Temple's Phoenix Wand, it wouldn't be able to compete with the moon-worshipping beasts. Bei Qiong glanced over and said, "After entering the arena, the Phoenix Wand will naturally appear." The Sword Sovereign frowned. Was the news wrong? Radiance Temple's expression didn't seem to indicate that there was a problem with the Phoenix Wand. This was different from what he had expected. His lips moved slightly as he transmitted a message to the Spirit Lizard. It nodded slowly, its expression calm. After cultivating the sword for more than 5,000 years, it had long since attained mastery over the sword heart, and no matter what kind of news it was unable to easily shake its mind. Swordmaster's heart calmed down slightly, and he said solemnly, "Since that's the case, let's enter." "Let's wait," Beiqiong said. Swordmaster's expression changed slightly. The Moonkeep Tower Master said, "Indeed, there is no harm in waiting." When the three of them conversed, they did not conceal their voices, so the surrounding crowd naturally heard them clearly. All of them froze, and their thoughts were in a knot. Today, all three sides of the finals had arrived, so what were they waiting for? However, those who were quick-witted had already reacted. They subconsciously widened their eyes, their faces filled with disbelief. Hidden Fog Sect. How is this possible? In the past, the Blue Origin Sect's Blue Ape had challenged the Dark Star Ice Serpent. Everyone had witnessed the tragic scene with their own eyes. The Dark Star Ice Serpent was lucky to be able to keep its life. Could it have recovered in just a few days and even participated in today's finals? What kind of cultivation joke is this? Or could it be that the Hidden Fog Sect had decided to switch to another spirit beast to participate in today's competition? This was possible, but if they really did this, wouldn't they just be asking to be humiliated? In the silence, there was the sound of footsteps. The first cultivator who saw the Hidden Fog Sect group subconsciously cried out, his face full of shock. Following that, cries of alarm rose up in waves. The Hidden Fog Sect master Hu Fu walked to the front. He seemed like a completely different person from before. He was incomparably old, and his aura was decaying, as if he could die at any moment. Just what had happened that a dignified sect master, a great figure that ruled over the Eastern Plains, had fallen to such a state in just a few days? Since everyone has arrived, then let's enter. Hu Fu's voice was hoarse. Just a few words seemed to consume a great deal of energy. His complexion paled and beads of sweat covered his forehead. He turned around and cupped his hands together. "Mister, my current condition is no longer suitable for today's matters. I ask that you manage the finals." Hu Fu didn't discuss this decision with anyone else. But, after a brief moment of surprise, the Hidden Fog Sect group remained silent. Beneath the black robes, Qin Yu thought for a moment and nodded. All right, this finals concerned Yin Dai's fate, so it was better for him to personally manage it. Hu Fu revealed a happy expression. "Thank you, mister." With the support of a disciple, he drew to the side, immediately highlighting Qin Yu's position. Countless eyes gathered on him. The mysterious black-robed cultivator from the Hidden Fog Sect had already aroused everyone's attention. It seemed that he would be representing the Hidden Fog Sect today. As they thought back to the day of the struggle for first position and the stunning result of breaking 10 rings, everyone was startled. Did the Hidden Fog Sect still have a hidden card in their hands today? Beiqiong deeply looked at Qin Yu, suppressing the anger and resentment in her heart. This person had a mysterious background and possessed remarkable abilities. It was best not to form any great enmity with him. But if there was a chance in the future, she didn't mind taking action and sending this black-robed person to eternal hell. Since everyone has arrived, let's not waste any more time. As her words fell, she stepped forwards and led the female cultivators of Radiance Temple into the arena. We can definitely win. Radiance Temple will win. The supporting cultivators all followed suit. The Sword Sect Master looked at the incomparably old Hu Fu and then at the black-robed Qin Yu. A sharp light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Whoosh, whoosh, sword energy tore through the air like a bolt of thunder. It landed on the Limitless Sword Sect's platform. Qin Yu felt a gaze fall on him. He frowned and looked up, meeting the Moonkeep Tower Master's eyes. The other party had a calm expression. She nodded and said, "Since the Hidden Fog Sect is the last to arrive, then you will also be the last to enter." The moon-worshipping beast roared. The moonlight that sprinkled down lifted everyone from Moonkeep Tower into the arena. This move caused cries of alarm to ring out once more. The moon-worshipping beast's control over the power of moonlight seemed to be stronger than expected. Moonkeep Tower will become the champion. Haha, The collective gift of Dragon City will belong to us. The supporting cultivators all laughed out loud. Yu looked away from the people from Moonkeep Tower. He didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but he felt as if those eyes just now were filled with pity and condescension. Turning around, Yu swept his eyes over Hu Fu. His expression tightened, and there was a bit of nervousness in his eyes, as well as a bit of hatred. Sensing his gaze, Hu Fu immediately restrained his emotions. But Yu had already noted this change in his heart. It seemed that there was something else going on between the hidden fog sect and Moonkeep Tower. Yu didn't care about the squabbles between the two sections. He lightly said, "Let's go." After entering the arena, Yu didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but he suddenly felt as if he had an inexplicable connection with this place. He could faintly feel an incomparably powerful strength deep beneath the arena. But when he focused his mind, he couldn't discover anything, as if it were just an illusion. Frowning, Yu landed on the round platform. He didn't have any more time. The finals were about to begin. As the four sects entered the arena, a sphere of light appeared on the arena platform. It rapidly spun, emitting red and blue light. Shwa, the sphere of light stopped. The red light pointed towards Radiance Temple and Moonkeep Tower, and the blue light pointed towards the Endless Sword Sect and Hidden Fog Sect. The drawing of lots was over. Rumble, rumble. There was a rumbling sound from deep within the arena. The entire arena was divided in half, becoming two identical arenas. The finals of the four sects would be held at the same time. Whoosh! A sword light flashed, and the spirit lizard landed on the arena stage. The sword it held swallowed up sword intent, constantly cutting through the air and emitting explosive sounds. It lifted its sword and pointed it at the Hidden Fog sect. Even though there was the strength of the arena isolating it, one could still feel the cold intent contained within. Yu had a calm expression. He clapped his hands together, and ripples appeared in the air. In the next moment, the temperature between the heavens and earth crazily fell. The Dark Star Ice Serpent's giant body slowly emerged from these ripples. It first looked at Yu and then lowered its head in respect and gratitude. Then it turned to the sword-wielding spirit lizard, its eyes indifferent. The spirit lizard suddenly drew back. At the same time, the sword in its hand danced. Where it had been standing, the stones on the ground shattered and sharp ice spikes shot out. At the same time, a pale white energy appeared in the air. This energy contained a terrifyingly low temperature. Just a tiny bit of it was enough to freeze an entire river. Chapter 771. With every step it took, the cold energy around the spirit lizard's body would spread out along its footprints, turning the entire arena into a world of ice and snow. The temperature in the air crazily fell. The terrifyingly low temperature was like an invisible blade, piercing through flesh and blood. But the spirit lizard's eyes remained calm, without any hint of panic. Suddenly, a radiant sword light flashed in the depths of the spirit lizard's eyes. It cut through the heavens like a waterfall. It stopped retreating. For the first time, it took the initiative to attack. It raised its sword and thrust out. There was nothing fancy about it. This ordinary sword strike caused that wild pale white energy to suddenly come to a standstill. Immediately after, the layer of ice covering the scales on the surface of its body directly shattered. Then, the ice in the arena cracked and dissipated. The extreme coldness that filled the air was swept away, and there was even a hint of heat emitting from it. With just a single sword strike, the limitless sword sect spirit lizard had proven its own strength. Good. This sword strike seems ordinary, but the truth is that it is wondrous to the extreme. It would be impossible to have such an effect even if it was half an inch slower or faster. Not just that, but one sword must be incomparably formidable in order to shatter the ice like a great sun descending. The limitless sword sect's morale rose. Although the initial panic and apprehension they felt when they encountered the dark star ice serpent had been swept away, they now had a great deal of confidence. But in the eyes of those in the arena, for the dark star ice serpent to recover so quickly after suffering the suicidal attack of the Blue Origin Sex Blue Ape and even participate in the finals was unbelievable to begin with. No one was blind to such a serious injury. It was nearly impossible for it to recover in just a few days. But soon, everyone thought of Hufu. In these past few days, he had suddenly turned into his old appearance. Could it be that he had used some sort of arcane technique to treat the dark star ice serpent and suffered a backlash? The more they thought about it, the more likely it seemed. If this was true, then this hidden fog sect master was truly crazy. In order to help his sect seize the position of champion, he didn't even care about his life. But was being the champion of the arena really so important? Was it worth a sect master giving up his life for? This was a question that not even the cultivators of the hidden fog sect had been able to answer, so it was naturally impossible for them to find an answer. The dark star ice serpent's massive body slowly emerged from nothingness as the cold was dispelled. But at this moment, its figure that remained by Qin Yu's side burst apart like a bubble. It had ink-black scales, a silver-white horn, and a pair of cold eyes. It was like a giant beast at the top of the food chain, looking down at its prey. Even if the spirit lizard's sword strike was breathtaking and nearly stabbed into the dark star ice serpent's body, it still wasn't able to create any pressure on it. None of the spirit beasts were a match for it in today's final round. The outcome had been decided from the beginning. The spirit lizard could feel the formidable confidence coming from the dark star ice serpent, as well as the pride of having no rival in this world. It did not feel angry or humiliated. Instead, it tightened its grip on the long sword in its hand. Ever since it first developed its spiritual wisdom and followed the previous sword master to cultivate, this sword had followed by its side. For 5,000 long years, it had never left its side for even a moment and had long since become an extension of its body. As it grasped the sword hilt, the spirit lizard could feel an endless strength that calmed its heart. It didn't fear any powerful enemy. The dark star ice serpent was a powerful enough enemy. The spirit lizard took the initiative to attack. Its long sword thrust out once more. It was the same as before, ordinary and without any fluctuations. All of the sword intent and strength gathered into a single point. The moment it stabbed into its opponent, it would completely detonate. The dark star ice serpent's massive body was both its advantage and its weakness. Facing the spirit lizard's sword that had reached such a profound level of sword intent, it was nearly impossible for it to dodge after it revealed itself. Thus, its decision was to directly use its own defense to resist the sword edge. With a deep roar, the silver-white horn on its head began to shine, and a layer of ice rapidly condensed on the surface of its body. This ice was only a thin layer, as if it could pierce a hole with just a gentle poke. But it had gathered the dark star ice serpent's path of ice and was nearly its strongest defensive strength. Ding! There was a light sound, like the wind blowing a bell from a tree. Large cracks appeared on the surface of the dark star ice serpent's body, spreading outwards in a ring. The sword tip was blocked, but the spirit lizard's expression didn't change. It thrust out its sword a second time. The target of this sword strike was the center of the broken ice, the place where the previous sword strike had landed. The dark star ice serpent's massive body began to move. Although it couldn't avoid this sword strike, it could still avoid damage to its defense. The spirit lizard's sword intent was stronger than it had expected. It feared that it was still hiding some of its strength. Thus, even if it believed that even if the second sword strike fell in the same place, it still wouldn't be able to pierce through its ice defense. The dark star ice serpent still dodged. It was right to be confident, but arrogance wasn't. The intelligence of a high-level spirit beast wasn't any weaker than that of a cultivator. This is bad. This dark star ice serpent has such a strong defense. Moreover, this layer of ice has a self-recovery attribute. If it can't break through it in one go, it will be in an invincible position. The ice attribute focuses on attacking, but the Darkstar Ice Serpent can actually display such a formidable defense. It is truly fierce. If the current situation continues, it will be impossible for the Limitless Sword Sect Spirit Lizard to win. If it couldn't win, it would naturally be defeated. The Limitless Sword Sect supporters all revealed gloomy expressions. Many Limitless Sword Sect cultivators subconsciously frowned and looked at the sect master. What they saw was the Sword Master's calm face. He didn't reveal any worry because of the current situation. This calmness and composure was like a boulder that calmed the hearts of the Limitless Sword Sect cultivators. But in truth, the Sword Master wasn't in a good mood right now. He was well aware of the Spirit Lizard's strength. Although it hadn't erupted with its full strength, there was still a limit to what it could hold back. Moreover, looking at the Darkstar Ice Serpent's relaxed appearance, it likely hadn't erupted with its full strength yet. Damn, the hidden Fog Sect's Spirit Beast strength had actually risen again. The Sword Master's heart sank. He clenched his fists beneath his sleeves, and hesitation appeared in his eyes. He didn't wish for the Spirit Lizard to use any forbidden methods, because while it could obtain a formidable strength for a short period of time, it would come at a heavy price. In fact, it might even endanger its life. The Sword Master calmly let out a deep breath and suppressed all the fluctuations in his heart. He had already decided that if he couldn't win today's battle, he would act at the critical moment and prevent the Spirit Lizard from destroying itself with him. Even if they lost the position of champion, with the Limitless Sword Sect strength, they wouldn't allow others to bully them. After 500 years, the Spirit Lizard had already become a true member of the Limitless Sword Sect. It had known the current Sword Master since childhood and had formed an extremely deep friendship with him. And at this time, the Spirit Lizard had already thrust out 13 times. A sharp light flashed deep in the Sword Master's eyes, like an oil lamp suddenly exploding. He knew that after this sword strike, there would be a change. This would be the first time the Spirit Lizard would attack with its full strength. Whether or not it could defeat the Darkstar Ice Serpent would depend on this moment. Schwa, 14th Sword Strike. The Spirit Lizard and its sword suddenly vanished from sight. In the next moment, a deep rumbling sound filled the arena, and a terrifying aura swept out in all directions. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.